Wow, it looks very cool. Amy had already changed into her little armor excitedly, and even put on her helmet. She sat on the motorcycle, and transformed into a little knight. However, even the mini motorcycle was very big for Amy, and that caused some unavoidable problems. For example, because her legs were too short, she was unable to kick the kickstand up. If she wanted to drive off on the motorcycle, she would have to find someone to help her. After Amy's short leg kicked a few times in the air, she tilted her head, and pleaded with Mag, "Father, help me kick this. Do you know how to drive this?" Mag asked with a smile. The wishing well told me how to." Amy nodded her head. "But if you start it, what do you do if you want to stop?" Mag asked with a smile. She could not be on the road forever. Amy thought seriously, and realized that this was indeed a problem worth thinking about. Amy's gaze quickly moved to Annie. Her eyes lit up, and she said, "In that case, Big Sister Annie can take my ride. That way, when I want to stop, she can use her long leg to stabilize the ride." "That is a way." Mag nodded. This was a double-seater, so it was suitable for Annie. However, he reached over and pulled the key out, saying, "There are many people on the streets during the day. It's not safe for you to drive out. You can go again at night when there isn't anyone in the streets." "All right. We'll go at night." Amy jumped off the motorcycle, took her helmet up, and put it over Ugly Duckling, which was lying at the side. Ugly Duckling lay on the ground for a really long time trying to find its head before it managed to pull its head out of the helmet. It looked left and right in confusion. After lunch, Eofi came over to ask Mag for his help to put the distillation equipment together. Mag went over to Titan Tavern. There were a few large parts in the cellar. The original distillation equipment had already been taken apart and placed in a corner. The layout of the cellar was also redone according to Mag's plan. Some of the extra things were removed, leaving only a streamlined operation and work procedure. This would make the entire cellar look cleaner and simpler. "Mr. Hades, do you need to get other people to help? These parts are all very heavy." Before Eofi could finish her sentence, she saw Mr. Hades lift up a sealed metal barrel in one hand and put it on the stove at the side. Eofi's and Mela's eyes widened. The metal barrel was taller than a man, and it was brought in by 4 large men together. However, Mag managed to lift it up easily with just one hand. "How is he so strong?" "It is a little heavy," Mag said as he rotated his wrist when he suddenly realized that he seemed to have gone out of character. "Do as you please," Eofi said with a smile. She was getting increasingly confused by this neighbor. Not only did he have astounding wealth, he even had amazing brewing skills. On top of that, he had incredible strength. The blacksmith that Eofi found had rather good skills. When the parts were pieced together, although they did not achieve the result of merging together tightly without a single gap, the difference was not too great. Mag got some welding tools from the system, and welded the parts for the distillation equipment together. After that, he painted a layer of anti-corrosion paint on it. Other than pouring tea and water for Mag at the side, Eofi and Mela were just in shock and admiration. In their eyes, Mag was just like an extraordinary magic caster who could use a mysterious light to stick the parts together, putting the metal parts that they could not tell the shape of into a giant apparatus that was double the height of a human. "The distillation equipment is already set. Next, I will teach you how to use this apparatus to brew Titan liquor." Mag removed his gloves and looked at Eofi, who was standing at the side with a cup of tea in her hands. "Oh, okay." Eofi quickly nodded. She handed Mag the tea that had already cooled down. It was not very easy to teach a woman, who had not tried her hands at modern machinery, how to use rather advanced distillation equipment. Thankfully, Mag remembered that he had his golden finger, which he could use to point at the parts where she did not know, and Eofi could quickly master its usage. Other than that, Mag even did some improvements to the brewing method for the Titan liquor based on his experience, and taught it to Eofi. Mag retracted the finger aimed between Eofi's brows as he asked, "Got it? Got it?" Eofi's eyes lit up. The problems that had troubled her with regard to wine brewing were all answered today. She had never found wine brewing as easy, and with this apparatus, it would only become easier. Such a feeling was too thrilling and satisfying. "Mr. Hades, Eofi grabbed Mag's hands as her face flushed with gratefulness that she could not put into words. "Miss Eofi, don't do this." Mag retracted his hands, and took a step back. "There are people around. This is inappropriate." Young mistress, I am going to buy some groceries." Mela turned to leave. "It is getting a little late. I should be back to cook for the kids," Mag said as he looked at his watch. Eofi realized that she seemed to have behaved inappropriately. Blushing, she said, "I am really grateful to you, Mr. Hades, I was too agitated just now. I must have startled you." "It's all right. I admire your thirst for knowledge. If you have any questions, feel free to look for me," Mag said with a nod. "Anytime." Eofi swept her hair behind her ear subconsciously. Mag had to admit that Eofi was a very charming woman. She was just like a ripe peach, and even Mag lost his senses for a while. "Not at night." Mag rejected her clearly. "All right." Eofi nodded slightly with a hint of disappointment in her voice. "In that case, goodbye." Mag made his leave. "What's wrong with me?" "Eofi, you're not such a woman." Eofi watched Mag leave the tavern, and stomped her feet as her face flushed red. However, she could not bring herself to look away from Mag, until he disappeared behind Saipan Tavern's door. "It's over so fast." Mela, who came downstairs with the money, looked at Eofi in shock. "You wench, what is in your head all day long?" Eofi's face turned redder as she reached out to pinch Mela. "Spare me, young mistress, I didn't say anything," Mela said innocently as she tried to dodge. Mag hummed a little tune as he returned to the tavern. The moment he stepped in, he could feel that the atmosphere was rather different. He looked up and matched the gaze of Irina, who was sitting facing the door, sipping on tea, with her legs crossed. Too, he felt his legs go soft, and almost kneeled down on the spot. "One. Just that?" Irina looked at him with a seeming smile. "Yeah. Just that." Mag nodded. He went up, sat in front of Irina, and poured her a glass of water. After that, he changed the topic, and said, "There's another important thing I have to tell you. It's the devil." Irina looked at Mag seriously. "It's not the devil. It's the elder things." Mag lowered his volume. "The elder things? What's that?" Irina frowned. "A lady barged in last night after operating hours suddenly. She had a strange weapon with her, and said that she was the observer of the elder things. She said she could tell that I had contact with the devil, and thought that I might have swapped souls with the devil. She even thought of killing me," Mag said. "Was she very strong?" "She was not weaker than me." Mag nodded. Irina's expression turned grave. She knew very clearly where Mag stood in terms of power, almost no one in the Norland continent was his match. But that woman was not weaker than him. What exactly is the elder things? Mag speculated, "I think it might be an even more advanced civilization. They are even more powerful, and have better weapons. However, they chose to hide, and did not appear on the Norland continent. We could not even find traces of them in the classical books. What happened after that? Her goal is the devil, and so is ours. In some way, we are friends. Besides, she was not confident of walking out of the tavern safely after killing me. Therefore, we negotiated and built a connection." Mag pulled out the communication device that Xi passed to him. It was a phone that could do voice calls. Irina looked at the device, and said, "If their goal is the devil, this does not seem like a bad thing for us. It's better than us being headless flies trying to find Joey and the escaped devil. In this sense, it is like that. Mag nodded. He looked towards the staircase. The two children should still be playing upstairs. I'll have another important thing I feel I have to tell you. Irina raised her hand, and formed a soundproof barrier. It's concerning Annie's origin. I'm sorry, I lied to you, Mag said apologetically. Hat. So you did play around behind my back. Irina's eyebrows shot up, and the air seemed to have gotten colder. Mag quickly waved his hands. No, 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 it's not like that. Then what is it like? Actually, Annie is a purely kind personality that the lightning bolt struck out from the devil that day when I was resealing the devil outside Chaos City. I almost fell into the devil's hallucination that day, and she was the one who pointed the way out for me and saved me, Mag explained. In that case, Annie is, back then, I realized she was just like a newborn child. She was very pure and kind. I was afraid that others would harm her, so I brought her out of the sealed land, and decided to keep her. She is a kind child. You know it, Mag said seriously. Yes. Annie is a good child. Irina nodded. She thought for a while, and said, so that woman came yesterday and also discovered Annie. Mag nodded. Yes. The elder things seem to have a unique way of seeking out the devil's aura, so she could tell straight away that Annie was different. She even wanted to bring Annie back for research. I'm glad you kept Annie with you. Amni is just like Amy, they are both our children. I would never let her be taken away. Therefore, I used my sword and my reasons to keep Annie with me. Mag nodded. However, he said worriedly, but I don't think she would give up so easily. After all, from a certain point of view, Annie is also a devil to them. They would not let her go even if she is a kind devil. Irina looked at Mag with gentleness, and reached out to grab his hand. I will stand by you and protect our children together. Since there is an even higher upper limit in this world, I will become stronger than I am now so that no one can threaten us again, Mag said with a serious expression. Eofi was busying herself in the brewery, trying to make the first Titan liquor using the new apparatus based on what Mag had taught her and what she had gained from her years of experience. Compared to the complex workflow of the original Titan liquor and the distillation equipment that was difficult to control, Mag's improved workflow made things much simpler, and the new distillation equipment was also easier to operate. Young mistress, Mr. Hades taught you how to brew Titan liquor. In that case, wouldn't he also have learned how to brew it? Mela, who was raising the fire, asked Eofi. Eofi was stunned when she heard that. After that, she smilingly said, Mr. Hades's Moutai isn't any worse than the Titan liquor. With his intelligence and talent, why would he have helped us with designing and building this brewery if he had really been after the Titan liquor? That's true. Mr. Hades is smart and capable. It's just a pity he was taken too early. Mela nodded. You wench, that's not nice. Eofi glared at her. Mela stuck her tongue out, and pretended as if she said nothing. Boss, are you joining the liquor tasting event tomorrow? The quality of Moutai and whiskey would definitely bring us some prizes. Yes. The alcohol from the past few years could not even compare to Moutai. It just gets worse as the years pass. We won a prize, we would probably get people lining up to drink. Many of the customers who came today asked Mag if he would be joining the liquor tasting event, showing that the alcohol lovers in the liquor tasting event were still rather influential in the circle. Mag smiled, and replied that Moutai would be attending the liquor tasting event. As for why the whiskey did not attend, it was to give other types of alcohol a chance. Just listen to that. Did that even sound like what a human would say? As the Saipan Tavern slowly rose in popularity, it was only left with 121 points to reach the 1,000-point popularity goal. Of course, after the liquor tasting event tomorrow, this difference would become plus 1,086. After sending the last batch of customers off, Mag closed the door to the tavern and stretched. Saipan Tavern was finally on track. Its popularity was rising slowly, and there wasn't enough space inside the tavern currently. Mag was considering knocking off the wall to the shop next door so that he could add more seats. Just then, his expression turned grave. Mag turned to look at the space diagonally above him. Irina and Amy, who were counting the money behind the counter, also paused in their actions, and looked towards where Mag was looking. The space outside the tavern started to become warped, and a huge silhouette appeared. Chapter 2078 What evil beast are you? Did something happen? Amy asked with a perplexed look. Annie shook her head, but she hugged Amy with a smile, showing that she would protect her. System, what happened? Amy asked inwardly. An unknown powerful and terrifying creature has appeared out there. Please remain indoors, little mistress, the system quickly answered. Is eat a bad egg. Ts an unknown creature that is different from any recorded species on the Norland continent. It's very powerful. It's not a being that you can handle, little mistress, the system answered. Then, can you handle it? This system is to assist you, little mistress. I can't launch an attack on any creature. That means you're not his match, idiot. Amy rolled her eyes. She couldn't help feeling worried about her father and mother. You'll protect the two children, while I lure this fellow away from here, Mag said to Irina before putting on a mask, and darting out of the door. Titan Tavern was closed, and Romo Street was completely dark and quiet right now. Meanwhile, a giant creature hovered in the air above Saipan Tavern. It was a gigantic three-headed snake with giant bat-like wings. Its dragon-like head was menacing and terrifying. Its blood-red vertical pupils were like red lanterns in the dark. Venom dripped from its razor-sharp teeth and landed on the ground. Deep holes were instantly created in the rock pavement, which was corroded by the venom. That three-headed snake targeted Mag as soon as he left the tavern. SSSSSS, the giant snake hissed and dashed downwards at Mag. So you really came for me? Then, I will bring you around Rodu. Mag's lips curled up, and he turned into a shadow as he dashed towards the ministry's offices nearby. The giant snake turned and followed Mag closely. That giant snake looked some kind of magic beast, but the evil aura on it was what Mag was the most concerned about. The same evil aura as the Great Old Ones was extremely thick, and Mag was certain that this wasn't simply a magic beast that was brought under control. It was more like a magic creature that had its own thoughts. Mag dashed in between all the government buildings. After the giant snake failed to catch him after dashing at him a couple of times, it began to launch its attacks. The snake spat out flaming fireballs, and they landed on those buildings, making them explode and collapse instantly, and causing a huge fire. It was already late at night, and there was no one in the government buildings. However, they were very close to the royal palace, so Mag could already sense a few powerhouses' presence approaching them right now. Mag led the giant snake around, and destroyed the offices of a few ministries before choosing a less crowded route, and went towards the exterior of the city. Before they could get out of the city, that giant snake was intercepted by 2 10th tier knights and 1 great magic caster. Mag concealed his aura, and stopped to watch the show close by. What evil beast are you? How dare you wreak havoc in our city of Rodu? The 10th tier knight in the lead yelled at the giant black snake that was blocked by an ice wall. The other two, the magic caster and the knight, also had solemn expressions. 20 to 30 10th tier powerhouses had congregated in Rodu recently, and they were asked to stand by at all times. Intense battle fluctuations were detected near the royal palace. Other than the powerhouses who had stayed back to guard the palace, the 3 of them were the first to arrive and intercept the perpetrator. Rumors about the devil had been spreading wildly recently, and this ugly fellow that they had intercepted had the terrifying devil's aura. It did resemble the devil in their imagination. The giant snake that was hovering in midair was over 100 meters long. It had 3 scary heads and a pair of giant bat wings behind its back. It was exactly the incarnation of ugliness and scariness. SSS. The giant snake made a sharp roar as it stared down at those people below. It swung its giant tail onto the ice wall in front of it. With the sound of the air being whipped, the thick ice wall disintegrated, turning into ice shards instantly. At the same time, the three snake heads opened their mouths, and spat out three giant fireballs. "Let's join forces to stop it and wait for reinforcements," the leading knight roared. He then stomped on the ground with one leg and disappeared. He reappeared around the snake in an instant, and his long sword was already drawn. He slashed downwards at the snake. The 10th tier knights' most powerful abilities were their sword techniques and their understanding of the rules and laws. They allowed them to wield strength that was way beyond their body's limitations by executing the sword techniques. A white sword projection swung skywards, and then slashed down unstoppably, as though he was trying to slash that giant snake in half with that one strike. The magic caster slapped a few protective talismans on himself. As he retreated rapidly, he raised his magic wand, and chanted magic spells. The other 10th tier knight also dashed towards that giant snake with his sword. There was something weird about this giant snake. It didn't look like some powerful magic beast that entered Rodo by mistake. For safety's sake, joining forces was very necessary for them. The three fireballs landed on the streets, and made three craters that were a few meters deep. That giant snake seemed to panic as it failed to strike the three powerhouses and was surrounded and attacked by them. It flapped its wings, and two powerful gusts of wind appeared as it moved backwards rapidly. The giant snake's tail twirled around and rolled towards that knight who was swinging his sword downwards. At the same time, a head opened its mouth and tried to bite him. This was a rather intense battle. Only the three severely wounded 10th tier powerhouses and a mess were left on the scene when the other powerhouses rushed over. Out of the city, to the west, the leading knight fainted immediately after he said that. "The five of you, follow me in pursuit of it." A general leaped onto his flying steed, and gave an order to 5 powerhouses before they chased after the three-headed snake westwards. On the other side, Mag led the giant snake eastwards leisurely on Ozzy's back. This giant snake's power was above that of normal 10th tier powerhouses. It was able to chase after him after it seriously wounded 3 10th tier powerhouses. "About here. Ozzy, let's stop." The purple-striped griffin hovered above a patch of bamboo forest after they were 800 kilometers east from the city. "Who are you?" Mag acted tough with his hands behind his back as he stood on the purple-striped griffin's back. The giant snake stopped about 100 meters away. It was also wounded. One of its eyes on the middle head was even knocked out, but the area that was covered by the black evil aura was rapidly repairing itself. Tamthulha Mag had already disappeared from the griffin's back as soon as it started talking. In the very next instant, Mag appeared above its head with his heavy sword, and smacked down hard. Boom! The giant snake crashed to the ground, leveling a big patch of bamboo, and making a deep crater on the ground. It can talk. Mag, who landed on the purple-striped griffin's back, said with surprise as he looked at the crater below. "SSSS," the giant snake let out a furious cry. "Don't hiss at me, otherwise I'll bust the rest of your heads." Mag flicked a glance at its other 2 heads. Sometimes, the comforting words of a powerhouse were that effective. That big snake immediately kept its teeth, but it was still staring at Mag with its 4 eyes. Its red pupils actually started to spin. Mag stared at those vertical pupils, his gaze seemed to have turned slightly lost. After a while, Mag suddenly chuckled. "Your power is way below mine." Mag's gaze became clear, while that big snake's gaze turned dazed instead. Its wings simply flapped unconsciously. When the giant snake started to launch mind control on him, Mag turned the tables on it. With his strong spiritual power and mind control ability, Mag managed to control this snake. "Pray tell, what are you? Why did you come looking for me? Also, how did you find me?" Mag asked. The giant snake numbly replied, I am Horror Hunter, Lord Thulhu's servant. I sensed the presence of Lord Thulhu on you, and I wanted to see if you knew where my lord was. Servant. Mag frowned. This fellow was indeed not a magic beast that was controlled by Thulhu. How many servants does Thulhu have? Is Horror Hunter your name, or the name of a race? Mag continued to ask. The great Lord Thulhu has countless servants. We, the Horror Hunters, are only one of the Lord's lowly servant races, the giant snake answered. Mag turned solemn, and gravely asked, where are those servants now? Are they still alive? The big snake's eyes suddenly flickered. It actually got out of Mag's control, and its vertical pupils regained clarity. It let out a hissing roar and pounced on Mag. Such a pity. I was so close. Mag sighed regretfully. He slashed off the two heads of that giant snake, leaving the middle head that was still slowly recovering. He smacked it unconscious with his sword. Sitting on the griffin's back, Mag took out the communicator that Xi gave him, informing her that he had caught a horror hunter. Then, he waited on the spot. 3 minutes later, the empty space vibrated, and a 5-pointed star-shaped spaceship appeared, hovering above the bamboo forest. The spaceship's door opened, and Xi walked out. She flicked a glance at the 3-headed snake that had 2 of its heads cut off, and narrowed her eyes. Then, she looked at Mag on the griffin's back. Looking at the scene, this seemed to have been a one-sided battle. This horror hunter couldn't even retaliate effectively. This man was indeed very powerful. This is a horror hunter, one of Thulhu's servant races, Xi said. How did you find it? Mag shook his head, and said, I didn't find it. It found me. It said it sensed the presence of Thulhu on me, so it came to look for me. I lured it here from Rodu. Xi nodded and lightly landed onto the ground. She walked to the horror hunter, and placed her right hand on its remaining mutilated head. A silverish blue light lit up in the palm, and engulfed the head of that horror hunter. Just as Mag thought that she was going to heal that fellow, Xi retracted her hand, and a fist-sized crystal ball appeared in her hand. There was a tiny 3-headed flying snake within that crystal ball. That flying snake was bumping around crazily in the crystal ball, trying to burst out of the restriction. Obviously, it was the miniature version of that horror hunter. Horror Hunter, you have violated the first rule of Underground City. You came to the Norland continent against the rules. I'm now arresting your soul, and sending it back to the Underground City for judgment. Xi declared coldly before keeping the crystal ball away. Underground World, the first rule, Underground City. Mag felt that he had received some new information. Want to know how many more such fellows exist? Where are they hiding? Mag asked Xi. I don't have the permission to answer those questions, Xi coldly replied. Mag frowned slightly. He felt that this woman was just like a humanoid system. She was rigid and cold. Then do you elder things have any ways to conceal the Thulhu's aura on us? It doesn't feel good to keep having weird creatures come looking for us. Xi looked at Mag and pondered for a moment before shaking her head. You are qualified and attractive bait. Perhaps Thulhu will come looking for you again. TM just a freaking tool, then. Mag's eyelids twitched rapidly. No, you are just bait, the system corrected him. Grass. A kind of green plant, the system harmoniously added. Mag said to Xi, you can keep the aura on me, but the premise is you have to help conceal the aura on Annie. Otherwise, I can't promise you can still get its soul after you arrive next time. Xi looked at the horror hunter's corpse on the ground, and considered it briefly before taking out a ring from her equipment bay, and passing it to Mag. Let her wear this ring. Other than Thulhu, no one else can sense her abnormality again. Mag looked at the silver ring in his hand. A line of mysterious runes was engraved on it. It felt cold to the touch. Nothing unusual could be seen. Thank you. Mag kept it solemnly. Although this woman felt like an emotional robot, she most likely wouldn't lie to him on such matters. "T'll leave all this for you to settle. I'm going back first." Mag didn't expect to get any information from her, so he left right away after giving Ozzy a pat. Of course, the job of cleaning up the crime scene should be left to the police. He was just bait without any human rights. Xi watched Mag run away and disappear. She looked at the surrounding mess with a frown before returning to the spaceship. The spaceship hovered over the horror hunter's corpse. A beam of light shot out from the bottom of the spaceship, and the three-headed snake's corpse disappeared instantly. The crater on the ground was filled up. The spaceship spun one round above the bamboo forest before disappearing into the void again. The bamboo forest was still in a mess, but it simply looked like the aftermath of a fierce fight between two magic beasts. "Is this red braised pork really that delicious?" Xi lay on the hovering chair, looked at the glistening red braised pork in the picture book, and gulped. She only put down the picture book after a while, and got up to get a liquor glass from the shelf. She poured a glass of liquor for herself, and grabbed a bunch of drunkard peanuts from the box. She sat by the window and drank alone. "Isn't your low-tier civilization tracking device going to increase my suspicion?" Mag pressed his lips together. "It's a high-tier tracking device that I bought from the other systems at a high price. It is the latest technology from planet M78. It was removed from Ultraman, and has only been used for 200 years, the system emphasized. Ultraman's planet is that impressive?" Mag was still suspicious. "These are the latest details on the location of the spaceship." A 3D map appeared in Mag's mind. "Where is it?" Mag looked at the empty map. The system fell silent for a while, and said, "This is a very normal technical difficulty. It happens even in advanced civilizations. As a fake engineer, you should be able to understand this. You probably bought a fake second-hand item because you wanted to get it cheap." Mag rolled his eyes. Mag was about to exit from the map when the pin started to blink, and a faint red dot appeared. However, it vanished very quickly. Even so, a location was left behind. "The spaceship is 100 kilometers north of Rodu at an altitude of 10,000 m, the system said excitedly. "What kind of tracking device is this if it can't give a real-time location?" Although Mag also had a flying restaurant, this was a legitimate spaceship they were tracking, and he did not think that he could catch up. After the conversation about tracking had ended, Mag was still thinking about the underground. He thought for a while. Then, with a sudden epiphany, he said, "System, do you think it's possible for this world to be 3D, like a 1,000-layer cake? We think we're in the first layer, but we're actually at the second layer. There's a layer underground and a layer in the sky. It should be impossible that the elder things, which are an advanced civilization, would put themselves in the dark underground to suffer. This means that the underground world should probably be completely different from what we think it to be. On top of that, there is an upper limit to the sky of the Norland continent. Would that be the bottom of the world up there? If the elder things and the servant race of the great old ones are in the underground world, what is living in the sky?" Mag was getting a little excited. He felt that he seemed to have touched the essence of this world, just like how Ferdinand Magellan proved that the world was round. The system fell silent for a very long time. There might be this possibility: the underground world managed by the elder things seems to be very orderly. Meanwhile, on the Norland continent, the various races are allowed to go to war freely. This is some bewitching going on. In that case, where are the so-called gods of the various races? In the sky? Or underground? Mag continued to ponder. "Host, I have to remind you that your main mission is only to become the god of cookery of this world. Unraveling the mysteries of the world is not one of them. As a system, you also need to have some pursuits. As a god of cookery, isn't it also very impressive if I can do some things of the god of war?" Mag said. "No. You would only be labeled as not attending to your proper job and being inefficient. Do you want to be laughed at by others for being just a cooking system for the rest of your life, and be kicked out of group chats as and when they please? Having a powerful host would allow your name to be inked in the history of systems and be remembered forever. Mag said agitatedly. That sounds like it is the case. The system wavered. Do well and get some black technology from the other systems, or you can get some immortal pills that can make you an immortal the moment you eat it. When we are done with the great old ones, what are bicycles? The world is ours. Mag encouraged. All right. I'll go right now, the system said excitedly. Mag raised his brow and smiled widely. When he returned to Rodu, Mag saw Irina zooming around Romo Street with the two children. Oh, this was a rather inaccurate way of putting it. Irina had made a soundproof barrier over the motorcycle to allow Annie experience the complete wild side of riding a motorcycle without affecting the residents around. Amy, with a black and white helmet and a black and white tight-fitting armor, looked just like a little knight. She brought Annie around the corner of the street in a perfect drift, and returned to the door of Saipan Tavern. Annie put her leg down to support the ride. The two children pulled their helmets off as they smiled happily. You're driving really well. You've even learned how to drift, Mag said with a smile as he jumped off Ozzy's back. Father, are you all right? Amy asked with concern as she jumped off the ride and rushed to Mag. I'm fine. Let's go in. Mag picked Amy up, waved at Ozzy, and entered the tavern. Irina kept the motorcycle for Amy, and brought Annie in. Where's the baddie? Amy asked Mag. I chased him away, Mag said with a smile. Father is super powerful indeed. Amy looked at Mag with admiration as her eyes sparkled. Oh, right, I have a little gift for you guys. Mag took out 2 boxes from his pocket, and passed a large purple box to Amy and a white box to Annie. What is this? Amy opened the box, and saw that there were many local snacks in it. Wow! So many goodies! Amy's eyes lit up. She quickly took out a packet of chips and started eating. Annie opened the little box, and there was a silver ring inside. She picked the ring up, and looked at it through the light with delight. Put it on and see if it fits, Mag told Annie with a smile. Annie nodded obediently, and put the silver ring on her index finger. However, as Annie's fingers were too long and thin, the ring was obviously too large for her. Just when Annie was about to try her other fingers, the ring suddenly shrunk, and fitted nicely on her index finger. It fits just right. Mag's eyes lit up. An advanced civilization's ring indeed. It could even adjust its size based on the wearer's finger. In that case, just keep it on from now on. It looks good. I like it very much, Annie said in sign language. She put her hand up to the light, and watched the ring shine under the light as she smiled happily. After putting the two children to sleep, Irina turned to Mag, who had just come out of the shower with a towel wrapped around him, and asked, "What was that just now?" "It was from the Thulhus servant race. I led a 3-headed flying snake monster above the 10th tier out of the city and injured it heavily. After that, I called the woman over to bring him away." Mag undid the towel and threw it aside as he walked toward the bed. "There's another world underground?" Irina asked curiously, even though she was blushing and a little short of breath. "That might be the case. Perhaps this world is not quite the same as what we know it to be." Mag nodded slightly. He looked up at the ceiling with a smile, and said, "There might even be a world up in the sky. Otherwise, why can't powerhouses fly to even higher places? It's as though there's an upper limit to the sky." Irina's eyes widened gradually. It was rather unbelievable and difficult to accept. Mag could understand what she was feeling. After all, the people on the Norland continent probably thought that their world was the core, and the sky and earth revolved around them. However, when they found out that the Norland continent was just a filling sandwiched between two continents one day, they would not feel good at all. Irina fell silent for a while. She looked at Mag, and asked, if the gods will came from the sky, would the gods be living in the world up there? That's what I think too. Mag looked at Irina. She was his wife indeed. They even had the same ideas. What is the world outside like? Irina asked curiously. This was the essence of all intelligent life. They were curious about the unknown. Perhaps it's endless space. Babla mentioned that the world outside the moon was a vast sea of stars, Mag said. What is that ring you gave Annie just now? I got it from that woman. It can block off the aura on Annie so those things would not look for her, Mag explained. That woman treats you rather well. Irina looked up at him with a smile. She is just an emotionless robot. I handed the three-headed snake to her, and promised that I would hand all those strange underground organisms to her in exchange for the ring, Mag said. Is that so? Irina was not convinced. Her thin hands were already around his neck. Again. The next morning, Mag woke up energetically. However, when he put on his slippers to go out of the room, he could feel that his legs were rather weak. It seems like even gods have to practice restraint. Mag sighed to himself. Today was the liquor tasting event competition day. As a hot favorite for the champion, Mag had to be there to take a look. More than half of a month had passed, and Saipan Tavern was still an unknown little tavern. This was still very far from his goal of making a name for himself in Rodu. The liquor tasting event was a shortcut. If Iafi could still smoke her way through for so long with her subpar alcohol standard by relying on her father, then it seemed that the liquor tasting event's first prize was indeed a golden signboard. Irina had nothing on today, so after everyone had breakfast together as a family, she went out with Mag to hail a horse-drawn carriage to go over to the liquor tasting event. MTR, Hades, are you going to the liquor tasting event as a family? Iafi greeted with a smile as she walked out of the tavern. Yes. Mag nodded. See you later, then, Iafi replied with a smile as she boarded a petite horse-drawn carriage with Mela. Mag glanced at Irina. When he saw her calm expression, he felt slightly relieved. Mag went to the roadside to hail a horse-drawn carriage, and went straight to the liquor tasting event. The previous liquor tasting events were organized by the Wine and Liquor Association, and were located in a manor provided by a noble in the southern part of Rodu. The horse-drawn carriage pulled to a stop at the manor. Mag and family alighted, and saw that the road outside the manor was almost filled with parked horse-drawn carriages. So many horse-drawn carriages. Amy tiptoed, but could not see the end to the countless horse-drawn carriages. Yes. It seems that this liquor tasting event is rather influential. Mag nodded with a smile. This was a good thing. Manor took out the invitation Iafi had passed him, and showed it to the staff checking at the entrance before going in. It was said that the owner of this manor was a baron. The area of the manor was huge, and other than the owners of taverns who had registered to compete in the liquor tasting event, there were also other wine lovers who attended. Mag was about to ask someone where the competition ground was. MTR Hades, we're over here. Iafi and Mela came up with a smile. What a coincidence, we've just arrived too, Iafi said with a smile. Yes. Mag nodded reservedly. His wife was around, so he had to appear distant. Irina sized Iafi up with a smile. She did not speak, but her aura was enough to win. Big sister Iafi, you're very pretty today, Amy said as her eyes sparkled, looking at Iafi in her long red dress. Iafi's smile blossomed like a flower. She reached out to Amy with a smile, and said, you're so cute. Let me bring you to somewhere with goodies. Sure. Amy's eyes lit up upon hearing that there were goodies. She quickly grabbed onto Iafi's hand. The grading ground is in the chapel right in front. I think it's starting. Let me bring you over, Iafi told Mag. All right. Thank you. Mag nodded. Irina reached her left arm out, and wrapped it around Mag's arm. Iafi spaced out for a while, and smiled courteously as she walked ahead while holding Amy's hand. Mag looked down at Irina's arm wrapped around his in shock. This little move of proclamation was rather cute. Irina smiled. Are you fit to even seduce my man in front of me? With beauties around him, Mag was in the limelight the moment he entered the place. In front of him was Eofi in a long red dress and cute little Amy. Beside him and holding his arm was Irina, as beautiful as a goddess, poised and elegant. Walking beside Irina was sweet Annie with her youthfulness blossoming. Everyone turned to look at Mag immediately. This must be Baron Baraka, right? Probably only the Baron has such an awe-inspiring retinue. The Baron is so lucky. I'm jealous. Everyone looked at Mag with envy, jealousy, and lemons. Mag was rather fond of these gazes. It was so real. After that, he went to take his seat in the audience. Everyone was stunned. They realized that Mag sat on the seat for Saipan Tavern. So he's one of us. While everyone suddenly knew they were mistaken, they were even more jealous. I just want to know, how am I less than him? I can see her every year, but the Titan liquor she brewed really can't compare to her father's. However, her courage and perseverance are still admirable. Some people recognized Eofi, and began to softly discuss her in a lamentable tone of voice. To the older liquor lovers and tavern operators, the Titan liquor of the past was really impressive. The Gold Awards winner of the very first liquor tasting event 30 years ago was Titan liquor. It became a much-told tale back then. The Titan Tavern from that time was one of Rodu's most famous taverns. However, that legendary brewer died in a burglary 15 years ago, leaving behind a daughter who was not even 15 years old, and Titan liquor was lost ever since. Although Titan Tavern reopened 5 years later, the Titan liquor that Eofi released wasn't comparable to the real Titan liquor. It became the regret of many liquor lovers. Of course, some of the regular customers would still patronize Titan Tavern every now and then. They deemed it taking care of an old friend's daughter, and giving her some business. Eofi greeted a few regular customers, and took her seat with a smile. Mag flicked a glance at Eofi. He had a better understanding of this woman's difficulties. Making a living was only a part of it. Her real pressure was withstanding the others' expectations and her father's glory. However, what kind of tavern is that Saipan Tavern? I have never heard of this tavern before. Yes. It sounds like a newly opened tavern. Otherwise, I would have known. That's because you're ignorant. This is the latest upstart in Rodu. Not many people know it, but apparently its liquor is not bad. Even Duke Abraham frequents it. There's something like that. Third about it too. He must have come with his liquor. We'll naturally know when the liquor is served later. The conversation's topic changed to Mag, who was sitting next to Eofi. They began to pay more attention to him. The chapel that could accommodate a few thousand people was quickly filled up. There were even many people standing at the back. Baron Kurt has arrived, someone announced. Everyone got up. A sprightly elderly man with white hair came in. A few equally old men followed after him. The one in the center is Baron Kurt. He is the vice president of the Wine and Liquor Association. He's also one of the founders of the liquor tasting event. The one with the mustache is Fergus, the president of the Wine and Liquor Association. A fair and professional elder, Eofi introduced the elders' identities to Mag. The Wine and Liquor Association was a fairly independent organization, and those elders who had their own identities and status ensured relative fairness. Kurt, as the sponsor of the venue, gave a short speech on this year's event on behalf of the association. Let's make it short and sweet. I know you guys don't really want to listen to an old man talking here. You only want to know if there is any new liquor that appeared in Rodu in the past year, Kurt smilingly said. That's right. I want to know too. Hence, let's start the liquor tasting officially now. I already can't wait. Everyone smiled. This Baron was indeed an interesting person. There was a 1-meter-tall platform in front of the chapel with 5 tables spread out in a row. The 5 judges took their respective seats. There was a big glass of warm water on every table. As the name implied, a liquor tasting event was to judge liquor and then rank it. As for the judging criteria, every judge had 10 points to give, and they were based on the subjective opinions of the 5 wine aficionado judges. Although it didn't sound stringent enough, as long as the 5 judges were professional and just enough, this would already be the most just and effective method. There were over 300 taverns taking part in this liquor tasting event. Due to the huge number, they were split into groups of 5 by drawing lots, and tasting would be done in groups of 5. Furthermore, in order to reduce the other factors from affecting the judge's discernment, the liquor would not be introduced during group presentation. Instead, the names would only be revealed after judgment. The staff members carried a bottle and 5 tiny glasses out. They opened the bottle right on the spot, poured the liquor into the 5 glasses in front of everyone, and placed them in front of the 5 judges. A faint liquor's aroma spread out. Mag closed his eyes and took a sniff. It was a typical sweet ratafia. It smelled all right, but there was nothing special about it. It was simply slightly better than the homemade ratafia. All the judges lifted the glasses and sniffed it first. Some of them shook their heads, while others nodded, but they all looked very calm. Then, they all took a small sip and put down the glass. This ratafia's texture is still all right. It's a little too sweet. It still has room for improvement. Kurt gave a short review before raising the scorecard in front of him. Kurt gave 6 points, while Fergus gave 6 points. The other judges awarded it 5 to 7 points. The first group, the first bottle. It's the Carew Ratafia from the Carew Tavern. 31 points, the host quickly announced. The total was 50 points, so it was a barely passable score. Mag nodded slightly. He was rather convinced by this panel of judges' professionalism. A fatty seemed rather ecstatic not too far away. Although it was a normal score, it was better than the score he had gotten last year. Moreover, it was the first alcohol to go on stage, so more people were going to remember it. The other 4 bottles in the first group received 30 to 40 points, and a judge would make a short review as advice. The judges only took small sips when they were sampling. They would also rinse their mouth with warm water later and munch on some cakes occasionally. Although there were a lot of alcoholic drinks, their speed wasn't slow. "Father, when will it be our turn? And, when can we eat?" Amy asked Mag softly. Such an event was really too boring for the little one. She had already gulped a few times while staring at the cakes on the stage. "Why don't you go out and play for a while first, Ianan? Mela is just outside. She can bring you to go eat nice food," Eofi smilingly said to Amy. All right." Amy lit up her eyes, and she immediately nodded her little head. Mag turned to look at Irina. "Go ahead." Irina nodded. Her spiritual power could cover this entire manor. Nothing would happen even if the children went out to play for a while. Annie held Amy's hand, and quietly snuck out of the chapel. "This is Reese Tavern's explosive liquor. The texture is just as the name describes, explosive. It surprises one instantly when it enters the mouth, and makes a strong impression. Furthermore, there is some improvement to the taste this year. It became smoother after going down the throat. It's rather surprising," Fergus put his glass as he commented with a smile. "Yes. It's a liquor that one can't pretend not to know. It has indeed improved greatly compared to last year." Kurt also nodded with a smile. All the judges showed their scorecards. The 32nd group, the third bottle. It's the explosive liquor from Reese Tavern. 48 points. The highest score now. The MC couldn't help raising his voice a little. The crowd erupted in a commotion too. There was barely liquor that was above 40 points in the previous 30-odd groups, and that above 45 points was even rarer. The explosive liquor was just 2 points away from the perfect score. Based on the past year's experience, it had a very high chance to win the gold award. Reese Tavern was very famous in Rodu. It was one of the top-ranked high-end taverns in the capital. Even though it had never won the gold award before, many of its alcoholic drinks had received the silver award. The explosive liquor was Reese Tavern's signature liquor. One could easily see the Reese Tavern's boss' ambition, since he used the explosive liquor to take part in the competition and receive all the judges' recognition. Everyone subconsciously looked at the middle-aged man in a golden, luxurious robe with neatly combed and shiny hair who was sitting in the front row. "Congratulations, Mr. Boris. Looks like you have a high chance of winning this year." The people around already started to congratulate him. The rather respectable-looking middle-aged man cupped his hands smilingly. He didn't come off as too excited. The liquor's smell is only above average. Seems like this liquor has something unique in its texture, Mag thought. 48 points was indeed a high score. At least judging from the previous scores, these 5 judges were professional and stringent. The boss of Reese Tavern is very formidable. He has many taverns, and each tavern has many signature drinks. Apparently, he has recruited many formidable brewers, and has been trying to come up with even better alcoholic drinks. Eofi introduced Boris while looking at the man with an admiring gaze. Mag nodded. He also stole a few glances at Boris. Anyone who dared to invest energy and money into innovation was admirable because their existence propelled the industry forward. Meanwhile, a tavern with many drink options had a very strong core competitiveness. Perhaps this was why Reese Tavern was one of the top taverns in Rodu despite not having a gold award. After the explosive liquor received a high score, there were a few more liquor entries that received around 45 points. Most of them were liquor that had gotten the gold award before, but according to the liquor tasting events rules, extra 3 points would be taken off if the previous gold award winner didn't have any obvious improvements. This rule is very smart. Mag couldn't help praising after hearing Eofi's explanation. This was a rule that encouraged outstanding brewers to continue to improve and innovate. At the same time, it also gave the younger brewers a chance. The Wine and Liquor Association is an organization founded by alcoholic drinks lovers. In essence, it's a consumer association, Eofi said smilingly. Irina, who had been quiet, looked at the judges on the stage, and said, "Won't they get drunk?" It was already the 45th group now. Although they were sampling the liquor with small glasses and taking small sips, they had already mixed over 200 alcoholic drinks together. Even drinking one small sip per liquor would require them to have a high alcohol tolerance. Eofi smilingly explained, "The judges' alcohol tolerance is quite good, so there's usually no problem. Even if the judges became tipsy, there are a few reserve judges that could go up and take their place, making sure that the liquor tasting event could go on." Their alcohol tolerance is indeed shocking. Mag nodded. His alcohol tolerance was okay, but he wasn't confident that he could still stay sober after drinking over 200 kinds of liquor. However, the 5 judges did look tired after drinking 200-odd liquor types and making reviews, so they weren't as enthusiastic as when they had first started. "Next, it's the 50th group," the MC announced, and a staff member quickly carried a black and narrow bottle up. "Eyes Titan Liquor." Eofi couldn't help sitting straight up, and her gaze closely followed that liquor carried by the staff member. There was also a hint of interest on Mag's face. With Titan Liquor's quality and 30 years age in the cellar, it would unquestionably vanquish that so-called explosive liquor. The audience was also a little tired. The more anticipated liquor names had already been presented in the liquor tasting event, so the suspense was already gone. This year's gold award would most likely be given to explosive liquor. The staff member showed the intact seal on the bottle to the audience before removing the cork in front of everyone, and pouring it into the glasses. The rich liquor's aroma slowly spread out. It was a graceful marriage of the grapefruit's fragrance and aged wood's fragrance. It invigorated the initially dull venue immediately. "This aroma! Baron Kurt instantly stood up, and stared at the glass brought over by the staff member with disbelief. The golden liquid swirled in the glass, sparkling like a gem. Isn't this Titan liquor? Marcus' personal brew? Fergus also stood up with an incredulous expression. Kurt and Fergus's reaction and words caused a small commotion in the crowd. Titan liquor was the gold award liquor at the very first liquor tasting event 30-odd years ago. It was created by brewer Marcus. With its unique fragrance and incredible power, it left a legendary shadow on Rodu's liquor scene. However, ever since Marcus died in a burglary, the authentic Titan liquor died along with him. Even though Titan Tavern was still in operation, the Titan liquor that his daughter Eofi made was far inferior to the original Titan liquor, so Titan Tavern slowly became a third-rate tavern. Titan Tavern had taken part in the liquor tasting event every year, but its score was never above 30. It couldn't even make it past the passing mark. They didn't expect the Titan liquor from Titan Tavern this year made the previous liquor pale in comparison just with its fragrance alone. This made all the judges and audience excited. It's indeed the gold award liquor of the very first liquor tasting event. Just its smell alone is enough to intoxicate a person. It didn't just win the first year's gold award. It won the gold award 3 times within 10 years back then. Its continual strive for excellence was what made it a real legend. The Titan liquor back then was the best liquor in Rodu. That scent. I can't forget it even after 10-odd years. I didn't expect to smell it again today. Yes. It's a pity that a genius brewer like Marcus died so young. Eofi's eyes shimmered with tears as she listened to their conversations. So, there were people who still remembered her father after so many years. They remembered the Titan liquor's original smell. The glasses were sent to the 5 judges, who all had a complicated expression. Kurt and Fergus were the founders of the liquor tasting event back then. They had taken part in awarding the first gold award given to Marcus. They had even witnessed the experiments and innovation Marcus did to Titan liquor and how Marcus had created the legend of winning 3 gold awards within 10 years. They didn't expect to be served a glass of Titan liquor brewed by Marcus again after 15 years. Miss Eofi, I respect and like Master Marcus very much. He was a genius brewer and one who was dedicated and persistent. The legend of him and his Titan liquor is still entrenched in our hearts even after 15 years. Kurt stood and emotionally spoke to Eofi, who was sitting under the stage. Thank you very much for letting us feel his unparalleled charm again, but according to the liquor tasting event's rules, a liquor that is no longer being brewed cannot take part in the competition, because this means that your customers are not able to buy it in your tavern. Chapter 20 84 50 points. Regret in everyone's hearts. Back then, Titan liquor was sold in small bottles at a sky-high price in Rodu, yet it was still hard to come by. Smelling the authentic fragrance of Titan liquor again here today made many old customers of Titan liquor reminisce about its taste. However, just as Kurt had said, this bottle that Eofi brought out could be the only bottle left that she had been keeping, and this was against the rules of the competition. This was because the goal of the liquor tasting event was to judge and choose alcohol worth buying in Rodu. The most important prerequisite for purchasing alcohol was a sufficient stock. Everyone looked at Eofi, who was standing, with a little pity and mockery. Even the owner of Reese Tavern, who obtained a high mark previously, could not help but turn back to look at Eofi. Thank you, Lord Kurt, for acknowledging my father's achievement, and thank you, everyone, for remembering my father. Eofi bowed to Kurt to thank him before standing up straight, and saying out in a loud and clear voice, "This is the last bottle of wine. This was the wine that my father kept in the cellar 30 years ago, and he said that it could only be opened 30 years later. I went to the cellar a few days ago to open the cellar, and this was the first bottle of Titan liquor that I bottled. From now on, Titan Tavern will be relaunching the Titan liquor that my father had brewed, and there will be a supply of about 50 bottles a day." It was silent. Then, the crowd erupted into an uproar all of a sudden. Titan liquor that has been kept for 30 years, and there will be a supply of 50 bottles every day. Master Marcus actually had so much good wine back then. It seems Titan Tavern will be a good place to hang out again. Although Master Marcus is gone, his legacy is just about to begin. The drinkers there were all very excited, especially those who were still longing for the Titan liquor. There were already people asking friends out to Titan Tavern for a gathering tomorrow. The tavern owners all wore different expressions on their faces. If what Eofi said was true, Titan liquor would be eligible for the competition. However, that was a strong contender for the gold award. Many started to look at Boris and Eofi. Back then, Marcus also won the gold award twice from Reese Tavern, and was known to be Boris's one and only rival. No one expected that years later, Marcus's daughter would bring the Titan liquor over again to compete with Boris's explosive liquor. Boris did not have much change in expression. He nodded to Eofi and turned to leave. Marcus actually left so much wine behind. Kurt was shocked to hear that too. However, he quickly nodded, and said, "In that case, this wine is eligible to join this year's liquor tasting event." "Thank you." Eofi nodded. She sat back down, and waited for the judges to give their scores. "All right, please remain quiet. Right now, the judges will start to taste the wine. Let us look forward to the next bottle, the Titan liquor that was kept for 30 years. How will the judges judge it?" the MC said in a loud voice. The audience fell quiet quickly. Everyone was watching the judges with anticipation. Ert raised his glass, and put it near his nose. He used his hand to fan the opening of the glass gently, and took a good sniff. The rich fragrance was intoxicating. It was a unique fragrance that was created through the fermentation of grapes in a wooden barrel. It was this unique and elegant, making the wines that came before it lose their colors. He took a sip. The wine slid into his mouth. It was gentle, and its fragrance filled his mouth. It was rich and enchanting, graceful and mellow. He seemed to have seen an elegant goddess that one would admire, but did not dare to go close to. Ert opened his eyes after a very long time. He looked at the wine in his hand, and exclaimed, "The 30 years have changed the fragrance and taste of this wine in a remarkable way. It's as though it has been upgraded once again. It's way better in terms of texture and taste compared to the Titan liquor years ago." These 30 years were probably Kit's last improvement to the Titan liquor to make it better. It's a pity he wasn't able to see the change for himself. Fergus just placed his glass down too, and he exclaimed in the same way. "I thought that Titan liquor had reached its peak back in the days. I only found out today that that was just a half-done product. Aging the wine has made the fragrance of the oak barrel and the fragrance of the wine combine perfectly, bringing a whole new style to the Titan liquor. This is the most unique and most delicious wine I've ever tasted." This was Marcus's work from 30 years ago. Back then, we were also stunned by his Titan liquor. Now, 30 years later, we are once again stunned by him. This is indeed a stunning wine. It was better than the Titan liquor back then. Time has become Marcus's best assistant, and has also completed the remaining work for him to make the real Titan liquor, another judge exclaimed as well. The 5 judges all gave very good reviews. The audience was quiet. Everyone was waiting for the judges to score this wine with good reviews. Eofi clenched her fists tightly as she waited for the results nervously. Kurt picked up the sign in front of him, and said loudly, "I will give it 10 points. It's a pity I can only give it up to 10 points. 10 points from me too. Titan liquor and Marcus are worth it." Fergus lifted his sign. The other 3 judges also raised their signs, giving the full marks of 10 points. 50 points. There probably hasn't been a wine that had received full marks at the liquor tasting event for 3 years, right? After 16 years, Titan liquor is about to take down the gold award for the 4th time. The audience could not stay still. Full marks, that was akin to announcing that Titan liquor had clinched the gold award once again. Titan liquor had already received such honor 3 times. Eofi could not hold her tears back anymore. She bit her lips and tried her best to control her expression. Congratulations! I believe your father would be glad to know this, Mag told her gently. Thank you, Mr. Hades. Eofi wiped her tears away, and quickly calmed herself down. After that, she smiled and thanked everyone for their well wishes. Titan liquor had returned with full marks, just like Marcus's legendary life. When the audience had quieted down, Kurt looked at Eofi and said, Miss Eofi, can I have the honor to buy this bottle of Titan liquor? I think this is a very meaningful bottle of wine, and it is worth careful tasting. When my father was still alive, he always said that you were an admirable and respectable elder. Please allow me to gift this bottle of wine to you, Eofi said with a smile. In that case, I'll help myself. I'll be visiting the Titan Tavern often in the future. Kurt stood up and took the wine and cork on the staff's tray. After putting the cork back, he placed it beside him. You're really fast. Why don't we have dinner together tonight? Fergus said with a smile as he eyed the wine on the table. Sure. I have a few bottles of good wine that I can take out. Not this. Kurt nodded with a smile. Chapter 2085. Will there be 2 gold awards? The perfect score meant that the gold award of this liquor tasting event was already decided. No one believed that there would be any liquor that could compare to Titan liquor in the remaining 10 groups, including the 5 judges. However, Eofi didn't think so. She knew what kind of unique existence Mao Tai was and what a talented brewer Mag was. She even wondered, if 2 types of liquor with a perfect score appeared at the liquor tasting event, who should be awarded the gold award. Such a situation had never happened in the 30 years long history of the liquor tasting event. Groups after groups of liquor were sent onto the stage. Perhaps, it was because Titan liquor was too awesome, and the judges couldn't snap out of it quickly, or perhaps the subsequent liquor's quality was bad, but none of the subsequent 4 groups of liquor that came after it received more than 30 points. Kurt yawned and rubbed his eyes as he turned to whisper to Fergus, I don't feel very alert. After this round, get Gerald to take over for me. All right. You have already drunk a lot today. Fergus nodded. The 55th group. Begin the tasting. Even the MC's voice sounded hoarse. Mag yawned. He was tired as well. He turned aside, and his gaze landed on the rotund bottle that the staff member was carrying. He became energetic instantly. He had waited for the whole afternoon for his Mao Tai to go on stage. He didn't expect that he would be so unlucky as to get the last few positions to go to the stage. It's coming. Eofi instantly perked up too. Her expression became tense again. Although she knew that Mao Tai was a rare good type of liquor, she still expected it to get a good position on the ranking of this liquor tasting event. The staff member carried a rotund bottle onto the stage. Everyone lost their interest after taking a brief look at it. The taverns with good liquor already had all their liquor reviewed. The explosive liquor was considered the strongest contestant, but it still wasn't Titan liquor's match. The staff member fiddled for a while before they removed the red cloth and pulled off the cork. Pop Eric liquor's aroma quickly surged out and spread everywhere rapidly. This liquor's aroma. The people sitting closer to the stage smelled the aroma first, and they all looked up with surprise. The eyes of the judges, who were a little tipsy and tired, lit up too as they stared at the rotund bottle in the staff member's hand with shock. The rich liquor's aroma was much more impactful than the earlier Titan liquors. If one described the Titan liquor's aroma as a graceful noble lady, then this liquor's aroma was like an irresistible hurricane. Compared to the grape's fragrance, its fragrance was deeper and richer. No one could identify how many types of fragrance it had even when they savored it slowly. What liquor is this? Why is its liquor's aroma so rich and fragrant? Kurt, who was about to go down the stage, looked up immediately at the staff member who was pouring the liquor with a shocked expression. Fergus' eyes lit up too as he said to Kurt, we already knew that it's good liquor just by smelling it. Seems like a new kind of liquor will emerge in this year's liquor tasting event. This was definitely this liquor's debut at the liquor tasting event. Given their experience, they wouldn't have failed to recognize it otherwise. They were simply curious about the tavern that brewed this and which brewer's masterpiece this was. The rich aroma spread out quickly, and the crowd began to get excited too. Even the audience sitting in the last row of the chapel couldn't help stretching their necks to look at it. This was the very first time they smelled a liquor's aroma that day. Those present were either tavern's bosses or veteran liquor lovers. They were all experts. They could differentiate its quality just by smelling it. There were people asking which tavern this liquor belonged to. They were guessing if this liquor could hold up to Titan liquor. Mag sat quietly with a cold smile on his lips. He was already prepared to act cool. The staff member began to pour it out. The transparent liquid shone like a bright pearl as it was poured into the crystal glasses. The glasses were placed in front of the judges. The 5 judges all were appraising the liquor in front of them like a treasure. Ratafia and grain alcohol were usually dark in color. This was inevitable during the brewing process. It was rare to see such clear and transparent liquor. In contrast to its clear color was the rich liquor's aroma. It was very hard to imagine that a liquid that was as clear as mountain spring water could give out such an enticing liquor's aroma. Just talking about its aroma, none of the 200-odd types of liquor could compare to it. This should be grain alcohol. It's brewed similarly to Titan liquor. Its aroma is rich, with a hint of sauce and cellar age. There is also a faint sweet scent in it. Its aroma is very unique. Kurt fanned the aroma with his hand and commented on it before taking a sip. Kurt closed his eyes, frowned, slowly unfurrowed his knitted brows, and curled his lips, revealing a sated smile. He opened his mouth a little, indicating his relaxed state. Kurt opened his eyes after a long time, and praised, "This liquor is smooth and refreshing. Its texture is rich and thick. Its aftertaste lingers long after swallowing. It's indeed excellent liquor that one rarely encounters." As Ariel alcoholic beverage aficionado, be it when setting up the Wine and Liquor Association back then, or organizing the liquor tasting event, Kit's intention was to discover more great alcoholic beverages and brewers. However, there hadn't been many alcoholic drinks that could bowl him over in the past few decades. Marcus Titan liquor was one. This liquor that he tasted today could be considered as the second one. However, in actuality, the Titan liquor that Marcus brought to the event 30 years ago couldn't compare to this liquor at all. The 30 years of aging gave Titan liquor its soul, which enabled it to be able to compete with this liquor. This was an extremely perfect kind of liquor, or he should say that it was liquor that had exceeded the upper limit of his guidance arena. Apart from praising and being curious about its brewer, he actually knew nothing about it. He had nothing to comment about it. Fergus tilted his head back to finish every single drop in the glass. He smacked his lips and put the glass down, wishing for more. He nodded and continued speaking after Kit's review. "I guess everyone has smelled its aroma, and Kurt has already described its taste. I can only say that this is one of the best alcoholic drinks I have ever had in my life. It's even one of the top 3 I ever had. Now, I am very curious who is the brewer here that made this and managed to remain so secretive." Kurt and Fergus both gave it an excellent review. They even pushed this liquor to an epic level. Everyone was guessing curiously which tavern had sent this liquor. Perhaps it could really compete with Titan liquor. Eofi turned to Mag with a sincere smile, and said, "Congratulations. Mr. Hades' Moutai is indeed exceptional. Now, what I am curious about is this: will the liquor tasting event give out 2 gold awards?" Mag said with a frown. Titan liquor had already received the 50 points, the full marks. There was still an upper limit no matter how strong Moutai was. In that case, the situation had become a little awkward now. This, Eofi lamented. The situation of having 2 gold awards had never appeared in the history of the liquor tasting event. All the judges gave this liquor an excellent review. Then, can the judges please give this liquor its score so that we can reveal which tavern and which brewer does this marvelous liquor came from? The MC calmed the slightly chaotic situation down. I will follow my heart. Kurt picked the scorecard in front of him, and awarded 10 points. Fergus picked up the 10-point card and the glass at the same time as he smilingly said, I rarely use perfect to describe liquor, but this is indeed liquor which one has nothing to pick on. Smell the glass, it's still so fragrant now. It's really amazing. The other 3 judges also gave the highest score of 10 points. The crowd erupted into a commotion. The second 50 points in the day appeared. 2 kinds of 50-point perfect score liquor actually appeared in one liquor tasting event. This had never happened in the history of the liquor tasting event before. Titan Liquor was still considered famous, and had once created the miracle of getting 3 gold awards. However, where did that mysterious liquor come from? It just suddenly appeared, and then created a miracle at the liquor tasting event. Which tavern came up with this secretly? Boris looks so calm. Could it be Reese Tavern that came up with it? I don't think so. This isn't liquor that an opportunistic businessman like Boris can come up with. 2 entries with 50 points. Which liquor should this year's gold award go to? Everyone was engaged in a heated discussion. They were all curiously guessing about this liquor's origins. It's so boring. I'll go look for the kids first, Irina informed Mag, and left the boisterous chapel. Eofi watched Irina's retreating back with befuddlement, and asked, Your wife doesn't look very happy. Perhaps she didn't know what the honor of the gold award meant to a tavern. What a happy and celebratory event it was. Furthermore, this honor to a brewer was a great recognition. However, Irina didn't encourage or congratulate her husband. It's just a small thing, so she usually wouldn't care, Mag smilingly replied. In fact, he also wasn't very excited. TT would be disgraceful if he failed to conquer the drunkards in the alternate world with the brewer's masterpiece. This liquor that received the full score of 50 points is Mao Tai from Saipan Tavern. The MC's booming voice reverberated throughout the whole chapel. Saipan Tavern. The church quieted down, and everyone looked perplexed. This tavern sounded so unfamiliar. It wasn't one of the Rodu's famous taverns. This name sounds very familiar. The boss sitting at the side looked around him, and his gaze landed on Mag. He saw the name of the tavern stuck onto Mag's chair, and his eyes lit up. He exclaimed, So it's him. All the gazes swept over, and landed on Eofi, who was wearing red clothes, before landing on Mag. They recalled that this man was mistaken for the Lord Baron earlier because he was surrounded by beautiful ladies. No one had thought that this young man who looked capable and was surrounded by beautiful women would be the owner of the liquor that received the perfect score of 50 points. Moreover, the owners of the 2 kinds of perfect score liquor today were actually sitting together. Sensing the gazes, Mag stood up smilingly and nodded in acknowledgement. Yes, he behaved like how leaders addressed the scene. Young man, did you brew this liquor? Kurt couldn't help asking in amazement when he saw how young Mag was. Yes. Mag nodded. Good, good, good. You're young and promising. Kurt kept nodding as he looked at Mag praisingly. Then, he looked at Eofi, and lamented, Marcus was about your age when he first brought Titan liquor here. He, too, wowed the crowd. Eofi, who was seated, looked up at Mag, who seemed to have light shone upon him. She seemed to see some of her father on him, and tears welled up in her eyes uncontrollably. Thank you. Mag nodded, and then sat down again. The 50 points that Mao Tai received was more shocking than the 50 points that Titan Liquor received. At the same time, it also triggered everyone's curiosity. How were the event organizers going to handle these 2? Who was going to get the gold award? Hello. Let's get to know each other. I'm the boss of Casa Tavern, Madison, the fatty boss sitting next to Mag said to him, smiling. Hello. Mag nodded reservedly. Madison wasn't discouraged, and continued to laughingly say, Congratulations to boss for the success of your Mao Tai. However, please forgive me for my ignorance. I don't know where Saipan Tavern is located. I would like to go and try this exquisite liquor personally 2 days later. All the tavern owners around them pricked up their ears to listen in. After today, Saipan Tavern was destined to be the one of the most high-profile taverns in Rodu. Everyone was curious about this unknown tavern. Where was it located, and why had such excellent liquor been unknown before today? Facing a potential customer, Mag quickly switched to the professional mode. Boss Madison is being too kind. Our tavern is newly opened. It's normal not to know it. The tavern is situated at Romo Street, and we operate at night. Please come over whenever you are free. Romo Street, Madison thought for a while before his eyes widened, and he flicked a glance at Eofi. Then, he said to Mag, "Isn't it on the same street as Titan Tavern?" "Yes. Boss Hades' tavern is just across from my tavern," Eofi smilingly replied. Eofi's words shocked everyone. 2 taverns on one street both received the perfect score of 50 points on the liquor tasting event. The strong return of Titan liquor had already made sure that Titan Tavern would return to its former glory. Meanwhile, after Mao Tai got such high praises and perfect scores today, it was already able to hold its own against Titan liquor. It was destined to become one of the most popular taverns in Rodu. Everyone could already imagine how popular that street would be in the future. If one remember correctly, Romo Street is really destitute now. Most of the shops there are closed, and the rest are barely hanging on to. The Titan Tavern alone back then supported the whole of Romo Street. With another Saipan Tavern now, Romo Street is expected to return to its former glory. Why don't we go get a shop at Romo Street first and open a tavern too? We might catch some of the straying customers. After all the high-end liquor is limited in quantity. Your idea is good. Let's go there and check it out later. Chapter 2087 Twin Gold Awards. After reviewing all 60 groups, all the scores were given. What made everyone curious was one question: whom would the Wine and Liquor Association give the Gold Award to? Both Titan Liquor and Mao Tai Liquor got full marks. The 5 judges on stage had a discussion with the other 5 reserved judges before tasting both liquors again. They reached a final agreement. Fergus walked onto the platform again, and gestured for everyone to quiet down. The crowd quickly quieted down, and everyone was looking at the highly respected president. He was going to declare the winners of this year's liquor tasting event. Fergus looked at the crowd, and said in a booming voice, "This year's liquor tasting event has given us a huge surprise. There are many great liquor types this year. The brewers' hard work and breakthroughs in the past year were all beyond our expectations, but the excellent liquor also made our judging jobs much more complicated and harder. For example, the Titan liquor, which has aged for 30 years in the cellar, and Mao Tai, which has bowled everyone over on its debut. Asking us to choose which of them to award with the Gold Award is equivalent to asking us to choose who is more important between our mothers and our wives. It's making things impossible for all the judges." Everyone smiled. The president was still as funny and humorous as ever. "So, after our serious consideration, we have come to a unanimous decision. This year's liquor tasting event will make an exception by adding another Gold Award. Titan Liquor and Mao Tai will both receive the Gold Award," Fergus said in an even louder voice. It was silent, the crowd erupted into an uproar all of a sudden. Double Gold Award. This had never happened at the liquor tasting event before. The tavern's owners looked at Mag and Eofi enviously. This was equivalent to taking down a guarantee for the next year's sales. Titan Tavern would return to its former glory, while the newly opened Saipan Tavern would become one of the most popular taverns in Rodu very soon. Congratulations to both Titan Tavern and Saipan Tavern. Could the owners please come up to the stage to receive your Gold Awards trophy, the MC announced. Marvelous. They actually added another Gold Award. Eofi also jumped up in joy and surprise. They are really quite flexible. Mag also nodded with a smile. Mag and Eofi got up and walked onto the stage. The two 30-year-olds seemed to be in their prime, making everyone in the audience envy them. Fergus and Kurt each held a big golden wine glass which had the words "The Wine and Liquor Association's Gold Award" engraved on it. Ert gave one trophy to Eofi, and encouraged, "I hope you can carry on Marcus' work and pass on the legacy of Titan Liquor." Eofi accepted the trophy with both her hands and gravely nodded. "Thank you. I will work hard. Young and promising. You will be a force to be reckoned with in the future." Fergus passed the other trophy to Meg and chuckled. "I have taken next year's trophy to settle this emergency. I hope to see you bring back an even better Muay Thai next year." Laughter broke out in the crowd instantly. "No, thanks. Muay Thai is already the best." Mag shook his head. Everyone stared at Mag with shock. Were the youngsters so arrogant nowadays? Fergus was also looking at Mag. "However, I'm still coming next year. I will be bringing other liquor. You may have to prepare another trophy as well then." Mag raised the trophy in his hand and looked at it against the light. "I guess my girls at home will love it." Fergus and the audience laughed. "Young man, you are funny. I like you." Fergus slapped Mag's shoulder. "Then, I will look forward to the surprise that you will bring to us next year." Mag and Eofi came down from the stage, and went back to their seats. It was the Silver Awards after Gold Awards. The explosive liquor from Reese Tavern and other 4 brands of liquor received the Silver Awards this year. No one had expected explosive liquor, which had been deemed the most likely to receive the Gold Award, to be overtaken by Titan Liquor and Muay Thai. Even its high score of 48 points paled in comparison. After announcing the 10 bronze awards, the highlight of this year's liquor tasting event had a perfect ending. "Congratulations! Same to you." Mag and Eofi left the chapel and smiled. Mag was very gratified. The Titan Liquor regaining its gold award would be a great boost in his property investments, and it would make sure his investments continued to boom. Eofi looked at Mag with even more admiration and gratitude in her eyes. If Mag hadn't torn off the seal on the cellars and let her use the Titan Liquor in the cellar to take part in the competition, she wouldn't have been standing on the stage today and taking back this trophy that belonged to her father. Meanwhile, Mag calmly accepted his gold award trophy, as if he had anticipated it. Mag saw Amy, who was holding a ton of goodies, and Annie sitting on the swing in front of the chapel as soon as he walked out. Irina was standing close by, while Mela was guarding the children at the side. "Miss, did we get the gold award?" Mela saw the trophy in Eofi's hands, and ran over with glowing eyes and shock. "Yes. Our Titan Liquor got the gold award." Eofi nodded smilingly. "That's great. That's great." Mela caressed the gold awards trophy carefully as her tears flowed. Mag went to the swing with the trophy. Amy put her plate on the swing and leaped off it. Staring at the trophy in Mag's hands with glowing eyes, she exclaimed, "Wow! Father, is it made of gold?" "I guess so." Mag passed the trophy to Amy, who had already wiped her clean. "Till no once I tasted it." Amy bit the trophy, leaving 2 neat rows of little teeth marks on the edge of it. It's soft. It's real." Amy nodded with experience. "Seems like joining this competition was quite worth it." Irina took the trophy, and flicked it with her finger. The trophy made a crisp sound. "It's a twin gold award. Our neighbor got the gold award too. Seems like the properties I invested in are going to increase in value." Mag chuckled. "She's really very popular," Irina said smilingly. Mag turned back, and saw Eofi chatting with a middle-aged man in golden robes. He had an impression of that man. He was the boss of Reese Tavern. If it weren't for Titan Liquor and Muay Thai, this year's gold award would have gone to his explosive liquor. The lean and smart-looking Boris looked very charming. He was a typical diamond bachelor. However, he didn't seem like he was flirting with Eofi. Instead, he looked like he was having a discussion with her. Mag didn't want to interfere in Eofi's life. He turned back, and smilingly told Irina, the highlight of the liquor tasting event is already over. There's a banquet afterwards. Should we go for our meals or return home for our meals? What do the children think? Irina looked at Amy and Annie. We went to the kitchen earlier, and a kind fat uncle already let us eat all their best food. Amy popped one little fried ball in her mouth and shook her head. So, we can go home for our meals. Hi, Mr. Hades, can I take some of your time? Mag was called back when he was about to board the horse-drawn carriage. Mag retracted his leg, and turned to look at the person. He knew the person coming. He was Mr. Boris, who had combed his hair up sleekly. What is the matter? Mag asked. I am Boris. Congratulations on winning the gold award in the liquor tasting with your Mao Tai. Boris reached his hand out to Mag with a smile. Thank you. Mag touched his hand, and then retracted it. Congratulations on winning the silver award with your explosive liquor. The corner of Boris's lips twitched. If it were not for Mag and explosive liquor, the explosive liquor would probably have won the gold award. However, he brought out his best upbringing, and quickly smiled as he replied, Mr. Hades is a genius brewer just like Master Marcus. Our wine would naturally pale in comparison. You flatter me. Is anything the matter, Mr. Boris? If there's nothing on, we'll be heading home first. Mag could not be bothered to stand in the freezing wind to praise each other with the man. His wife and children were still waiting for him in the carriage. Wouldn't it be better to sit in the comfort of his warm home? Boris looked at Mag, and said sincerely, Mr. Hades, you're a straightforward person. Actually, I would like to invite you to a partnership with me. I have 10 large-scale taverns in Rodu, and you have an exceptional brewing technique. If we can work together, we will definitely be a legend in the world of liquor. Apologies. I am not interested in becoming a legend of any sort. If anything, I am the legend. Mag smiled and boarded the horse-drawn carriage as he told the coachman to set off. Mr. Hades, you can consider it. If you have any ideas, you can always look for me at Reese Tavern. Boris took a step to the side as he spoke toward the horse-drawn carriage. Mag did not reply as the coachman drove the carriage towards Romo Street. He could tell that Mr. Boris was a very excellent businessman. However, Mag did not need such a friend. Boris probably told Eofi the same thing. The thing was that Mag did not know if Eofi agreed to the man's suggestion. That fellow seemed to be in deep thoughts just now. He did not seem like a good person, Irina told Mag. Businessmen chase profits. There's nothing good or bad about that. I don't have an intention of forging a deep relationship with him, Mag said with a smile. What about you? I am not a businessman. I am a chef. I just invest in some assets that have been heavily underrated, Mag said. Will the property prices at Romo Street really go up? They all said that you've made losses, Irina said in disbelief. If they could have understood it, they would have long made it big. Mag smiled, and said confidently, it will not even take a year. Tomorrow there will be more people asking about shops here. The value of a commercial street was dependent on popularity. Romo Street was considered a low-value area. With the double gold award that Titan Tavern and Saipan Tavern brought back, Romo Street would be welcoming a new wave of crowd. With the increased popularity, Romo Street's commercial value would naturally rise. If other merchants wanted to ride this wave, they would have to start their commercial activities on Romo Street, and that would continue to bring the crowds in. This was how things would work out for both sides. As long as the commercial system in Romo Street could be rebuilt and attract more capable and unique merchants to stay, a whole new commercial system would be formed. This commercial system structure would be controlled by Mag. As the first landlord of Romo Street, Mag, who had a few hundred buildings to his name, had that power. A commercial street was like an ecosystem. For it to last long and healthily, there had to be a specific plan. Homogeneity and monopoly would ruin an entire commercial circle. It was not destined to last long. Mag would of course have to hand such professional things to the system. If it was something that could be solved perfectly with 10 copper coins, Mag would not rack his brain cells to do it on his own and pull out an unprofessional business proposal. Back in the restaurant, Mag first made a sumptuous lunch. After lunch, he left to find the agent whom he went to when he bought his house. "Sir, a man named Hades is looking for you outside." A staff member entered the office quickly, and made a report as he looked at Fitch, who was organizing his files. "Hades." Fitch looked up. He thought for a while before his eyes widened in shock. "Sir, is he someone that you should not be meeting?" The staff member saw that Fitch did not wear a very good expression, and asked, "Should I get him to leave?" "Yes. Just say that I'm not around." Fitch nodded. "All right." The staff member turned and walked out. "Hold on." Fitch called the person back. He took a deep breath, and said, "Forget it. I'll go on my own." "All right." The staff member was bewildered, but he still nodded. Fitch took his sweater, and let out a long sigh before going out. And just this month, Fitch, who had been a property agent for 3 years, finally welcomed the turning point in his job, and became a supervisor. What made him the legend of the property world was the story of hundreds of buildings on Romo Street, wiping out more than 10 property agents' low-cost assets. Now, he had received a promotion and a raise, and had become a supervisor. He had even had his first date with his boss's daughter. Ow, the person who made him, Mr. Hades, came knocking on his door. Could he have found out that he was duped? Fitch was rather flustered. Although he had handled the handing over of the buildings very cleanly, as Romo Street continued to decline, the value of those old buildings would only get lower. "Mr. Hades, please come in." Fitch went out and saw Hades, who was standing at the door. He quickly went over with a smile to welcome him. "There's no need for me to go in for a seat. I am here today to ask if you have services covering shop rentals," Mag said straightforwardly when he saw Fitch. This youngster had a rather good attitude when it came to working. His efficiency and work abilities were good too. This was also why Mag decided to choose him again. Fitch, who thought that Mag would be here to give him a dressing down, was shocked. After a while, he came back to his senses, and looked at Mag as he exclaimed, "Mr. Hades, are you intending to rent out the shops that you've purchased recently?" "Yes. However, I do not wish to talk to those people myself. Therefore, I wish to find a professional organization to do this for me." Mag nodded. "I see." Fitch looked at Mag. He could not help but feel a little guilty. Mr. Hades was a good person, but he bought so many rubbish shops in one go. If Fitch had advised him against it back then, this would not have happened. It was understandable now that he wanted to rent the shops out to recoup some of his losses. However, there was barely a soul around on Romo Street. Which idiot would spend the money to open a shop here? "Mr. Hades, I'm afraid these shops are. You don't provide this service." Mag interrupted his nonsense. "We do provide renting services. If you wish, I can give you a discount. I will only take the annual rental fees of 5 locations as the agent fees." Fitch nodded. He really could not bear to watch Mag like that. He could even feel helplessness and regret. "Mr. Hades, you are such an extraordinary person." Fitch watched Mag sign on the subscription documents with complicated emotions. Even though he was earning another several hundred thousands, he felt guilty watching Mag sink deeper and deeper. As for the business plan that Mr. Hades mentioned earlier, the rental rate that was several times higher than the current Romo Street's rental rate was an absurd idea. "Go to Romo Street in the afternoon, and put up your contact details on my vacant houses. People will be looking for you very soon," Mag said with a smile. "All right. That's part of my job. I will bring my people there immediately after I settle the documents." Fitch nodded with a smile. Perhaps an easy customer like Hades was every salesperson's favorite. The sales of 33 properties had completed Fitch's first month requirement after he was promoted to a supervisor. He wondered if he could have dinner with the boss' daughter tonight, and perhaps go further with her. Mag could see through Fitch's thinking, but the man's attitude was good, and his ability was not bad, so Mag was willing to work with him. He didn't care about his other thoughts. Fitch sent Mag out, and arranged for the shop's horse-drawn carriage to send him home. Mag sat in the horse-drawn carriage, and stretched out lazily and comfortably. He was so young, and he was going to collect rent until his hands shook and he became the most handsome landlord on the street. The lifestyle of the rich was just dull and boring. Supervisor, you are so out of this world. You just sold 33 properties in a blink of an eye. The staff member who had gone to call Fitch earlier looked at him with admiration. It's just normal operation. Fitch placed the documents onto the table calmly. Sort out these documents, and then follow me to Romo Street. Alrighty, that person answered. He picked up the documents on the table, and curiously asked, why are we going to Romo Street? Didn't you sell all the properties there already? The buyer wants us to help rent out these properties, so we are going to stick to the rent notices there, Fitch answered. Would anyone still want to rent a shop there? That person was perplexed, but he still returned to his seat with the documents. Soon, Fitch brought his men to Romo Street. The street was still cold and destitute as before. There weren't many pedestrians on the street now, and some shops were on the verge of closing, while many had for rent notices stuck on them. His subordinate flicked a glance at the tavern with its doors half closed, and whispered, I think it won't take long before all shops close down on this street. Fitch sighed inwardly. Romo Street had been glorious once too. However, he quickly retracted his gaze, pushed the glue bucket into his subordinate's hands, and said, we are paid to do a job. Let's stick to all the notices quickly. We need to stick to over 100 notices. The subordinate couldn't help asking a question as he worked. Supervisor, what background that boss comes from? He simply bought up over 100 properties. No matter how cheap they are, he will still need to pay 1 to 2 billion copper coins in cash. Is he really that rich? He said he came from a normal family. Do you believe him? Fitch threw him a look. This. We also can't say we don't, right? The subordinate shrugged his shoulders. Then let's move quickly. The weather is so cold. Won't it be comfortable to go back and toast ourselves at the fireplace? Fitch rolled his eyes at him. He was also carrying a bucket of glue and sticking the notices on the doors. Romo Street wasn't big, and it was mainly made up of old houses. However, these old houses could all be demolished and rebuilt. This wasn't hard for the construction teams with cultivators. It would be even cheaper than remodeling the old properties. However, Fitch didn't believe there would be idiots coming here to rent properties. It was obviously a money-losing deal. Unless, another Mr. Hades came along. Excuse me, is this property for rent? A voice spoke up behind Fitch. Fitch turned around, and saw two rather well-dressed middle-aged men behind them. Fitch showed a professional smile and nodded. Yes, sir. This property is for rent. Apart from this property, we have over 100 properties for rent on this street too. Shocked, the tall and thin middle-aged man on the left said, over 100 properties? All yours? No, we are just the agents responsible for renting out the properties. Fitch shook his head and sized them up reservedly. Judging from their clothes, both of them should be rich upper-class people. Perhaps he had really bumped into idiots. Was his luck really that good? Agents. The two of them realized. How big is this property? How much is its annual rental? The short and fat man asked. Fitch flipped through the documents Mag passed to him that morning, and quickly found this building's number. He answered, the single floor area of this building is 200 square meters. There are 3 floors above ground and 1 underground cellar. The first year's rental is 200,000 copper coins. 200,000 copper coins? Isn't it too expensive for such a location and human traffic's conditions? The middle-aged man frowned. He was obviously not very satisfied with the price. This is the price that the owner asked for. We have no right to change it. Fitch laughed awkwardly. He had already told Mag that the price was double that of the market price, but Mag insisted on it. Fitch promoted it enthusiastically. However, if you look at this building, it's considered very new on Romo Street, and its interior is still very much intact. It was a tavern previously, and many of the things that were left behind could be used right away. If you weren't on Romo Street, but on the other streets, it wouldn't be this price. It's true that we can't find such cheap shops if we aren't on Romo Street, but it's precisely why it shouldn't be this price because it's on Romo Street. The tall and lean man shook his head with a smile. He pointed at a tavern that had a for sale sign hanging on its door. That old tavern's stamp duty plus 1 year's rental is only 200,000 copper coins, and we can start our business as soon as we take over it. Isn't that better? That's indeed a better choice. Fitch nodded in agreement. These two were obviously smart businessmen. The short and fat middle-aged man looked around him, and then said to Fitch, "You guys are agents, so do you know if there are any other shops for sale on Romo Street?" Shops? Fitch and his subordinate had a surprised expression. It was already weird enough that these two seemingly weird businessmen came to rent shops on Romo Street, but they even came to ask about shops for sale. Could they really be two dupes? However, Mr. Hades had bought all the properties for sale on Romo Street. These 33 buildings sold today were the last batch. The rest were basically occupied by the owners who lived there or already rented for income. There was no inclination for sale. Fitch shook his head, and said, "I'm sorry. Just today, the last 33 properties were already sold, and there are no shops for sale on Romo Street currently." The short and fat middle-aged man stared at Fitch, and said, "Were they all bought out?" "All of them." "Yes." Fitch nodded. He couldn't understand why the two of them had such a reaction. The tall and lean middle-aged man slapped his thigh, and regretfully said, "Sigh. We were still too late. I didn't expect that there would be people who came earlier than us. We shouldn't have eaten that lunch." That short and fat middle-aged man was also very regretful. Fitch and his subordinate stood at the side with befuddlement. They looked at each other and shook their heads. In this case, the person who entrusts you to rent out the 100-odd properties is that buyer, right? "Can you tell us who he is?" the tall and lean middle-aged man asked Fitch. Fitch shook his head, and apologetically answered, "I'm sorry. This is our client's privacy. We can't share it." The two middle-aged men looked at each other, and saw a hint of frustration with a wasted opportunity in each other's eyes. "I'm a little curious. Why are you two gentlemen interested in Romo Street's shops suddenly? After all, as you said, Romo Street doesn't have human traffic." Fitch asked the two of them a question with curiosity. "Since there are no shops for us to buy anymore, I don't mind telling you the truth. Both Titan Tavern and Saipan Tavern on Romo Street won the Gold Awards at today's liquor tasting event, and they both got full marks," the short and fat middle-aged man said, and then lamented, "You might look down on the current Romo Street, but you won't be worthy of the Romo Street in the future." "What? Twin Gold Awards?" The eyes of Fitch and his subordinate widened at the same time. As a proper salesperson, Fitch knew very well the rationale behind a street's popularity. He hadn't witnessed the Romo Street's boom in the past, but he had heard his seniors mention many times how Romo Street had prospered after the Titan Tavern had received the Gold Award back then and had been popular for over 10 years. It was just because Titan Tavern lost Marcus and became a normal tavern that Romo Street began to decline and finally became like this. However, both Titan Tavern and Saipan Tavern took back the liquor tasting event's Gold Awards today. One could only imagine the crowd that these two taverns would bring to Romo Street in the future. Romo Street was going to return to its glory, and it wasn't impossible for it to go to even higher levels. Meanwhile, Saipan Tavern. Wasn't that Mr. Hades' tavern? Fitch gulped, and saw the same thoughts in his subordinate's eyes. He suddenly thought of one terrible thing. Mr. Hades had targeted Romo Street from the very beginning when he bought over 100 properties in one go. He had already thought of making Saipan Tavern the anchor point and making Romo Street return to its previous glory. Moreover, he only prepared to rent the shops after Saipan Tavern got the Gold Award today, and he set up many restrictive conditions and a rental price that was much higher than the market rate. That wasn't a rate that was much higher than the market rate, but a very reasonable rental rate. Furthermore, Mr. Hades buying the last 33 buildings was equivalent to controlling over half of the good shop fronts on Romo Street. Perhaps, no one could even vote no if this street was to change its name to Hades Street. One could only imagine how valuable the over 100 properties in Mr. Hades' hands would be after Romo Street returned to its full glory. Mr. Hades is such an extraordinary person. Fitch felt extremely shocked. Just as he was gloating over 2 million in commission, the other party was already considering a business deal that was worth billions of dollars. Perhaps this was the difference in their outlook in life. The two middle-aged men walked towards the tavern that was for sale. Fitch's words made them determined to buy this tavern today. Otherwise, it would be difficult to buy such a lowly priced asset after the news got out. The subordinate gulped, and asked Fitch, "Supervisor, is all this part of Mr. Hades' plan?" "I would have thought it could have been luck if only Titan Tavern had got the gold," waved the proposal in his hands bitterly, "but even Saipan Tavern got the gold award. Furthermore, Mr. Hades even gave me such a detailed proposal. It already explains everything. He must have earned a lot of money, right?" The similar shop fronts on Tavern Street in the north of the city cost about 5,000,000. Fitch was trying not to look too jealous. "Hiss," the subordinate sucked in a breath of cold air, and jealously said, "Those owners who sold their properties today are going to cry their hearts out." Fitch laughingly said, "They have nothing to complain about. Mr. Hades did this with his own ability. If he hadn't entered Romo Street, the commercial value of this street would have already hit rock bottom. He will be the new creator of this street." "That's true. It's really admirable." The subordinate nodded too. In their hearts, Mag had changed from an idiot to a business magnate. "Go and stick up the notices quickly. Renting all these shops out alone could hit all our next month's target." Fitch hurried his subordinate smilingly. "Alrighty," the subordinate answered energetically. The two of them stopped and gawked around when they passed by Saipan Tavern before leaving with surprise. Meanwhile, the news of Saipan Tavern and Titan Tavern both winning the gold awards had already spread on Romo Street. The bosses that stayed behind on Romo Street didn't believe it at first, but after confirming it, many of them wept with joy. They still remembered the glory of Romo Street in the past. Just as they thought they couldn't hold on any longer, these twin gold awards appeared like rain after a long drought, giving these bosses who thought of quitting a boost. The Titan Tavern supported the entire street alone back then. With another Saipan Tavern, anyone could see the future of Romo Street. A waiter ran into a tavern, and whispered to the owner, who was enthusiastically bargaining with the two middle-aged men about the sales of the tavern for 100 or 200 copper coins of price difference. The tavern's boss was taken aback, and asked the waiter, "Are you sure? They are talking about this out there. The news has already spread throughout Rodu, so it has to be true." The waiter nodded with conviction. The two middle-aged men looked at each other, and said "Oh no" inwardly. "Then let's go with the price you decided and sign the documents." The short and fat man hurried him. The tavern's boss shook his head smilingly. "Wait a section. I'm sorry, gentlemen. I'm not selling this tavern anymore. We have already reached this stage of negotiation. Isn't it inappropriate to change your mind now, the tall and lean middle-aged said with a frown. You two gentlemen hid the news, and tried to buy my tavern at a low price. Isn't it inappropriate too? The tavern's boss stopped smiling and sneered. I didn't know about Titan Tavern and Saipan Tavern getting the gold awards, because I didn't go to the liquor tasting event today, but the two of you shouldn't take me as an idiot, either. Forget it. Let's go look for other shops. The short and fat middle-aged man sighed and walked out of the shop. The tall and lean middle-aged man also resignedly left. After the two of them left, the tavern's boss told the waiter, Quick! Go remove the sign on the door, and then contact a construction team. Close the shop for 3 days, and then refurbish the entire tavern. Such a rush! The waiter was a little taken aback. The boss, who was having a headache over the tavern being unsaleable, actually rejected the other party's offer, and was even prepared to refurbish the tavern. Of course. We will lose money if we are late. Boss pushed the waiter out of the tavern, and removed the sign on the door himself. He didn't forget to remind the waiter, Go get the construction team here today, and we will start the work tonight. The earlier we can finish, the better. It's even fine to pay more. All right. The waiter left with befuddlement. Similar situations were happening all over Romo Street. The shops that had for sale signs on their doors quickly removed them. Meanwhile, those dirty and run-down shops began to start cleaning up or closing down to refurbish or upgrade right away. Those shops that had converged because of Titan Tavern back then were indeed a little outdated. The low popularity caused the inertia to refurbish. With the popularity of the Twin Gold Awards, all the bosses had the thought of upgrading their shops. Miss, everyone knows that we got the Gold Award now. Many people came to congratulate us. Mela dashed into the workshop excitedly, and reported to Iafi, who was operating the machine seriously. Iafi closed the machine, and said to Mela, Don't run around if you have nothing to do. Go watch after the construction team. We must make sure the refurbishment and expansion are done properly. The Titan Tavern in the future will be different from the one in the past. Yes. Mela nodded, turned around, and walked a few steps away before she turned to ask Iafi perplexedly, But miss, why don't you accept Mr. Boris's offer? Not only will you have many taverns, you can also call them Titan Taverns. You don't even have to work hard and brew liquor here every day. You can also sleep in every day. All that little head of yours is sleep, sleep, and sleep, and nothing else. Iafi flicked Mela's forehead with exasperation. She looked at the brewery and shook her head with a smile. One don't need so many taverns. I only want this tavern that father and mother left to me. Furthermore, I like to brew liquor. I like to truly inherit father's career and brew the authentic Titan liquor. This is what makes me happy. Oh. Mela nodded as if she understood Iafi's words. Go and work now. Iafi waved her hand, and chased Mela out of the brewery. Boris indeed gave her a very sincere price when he talked to her today. Partner of Reese Tavern with 30% shares. She could earn hundreds of millions of dividends every year while keeping Titan Tavern to herself. However, he also made a condition that she couldn't accept sharing the aged Titan liquor and the brewing methods. Hence, Iafi rejected Boris's invitation, even though he said he was her father's good friend. She only wanted to run Titan Tavern properly, and let it become one of Rodu's best taverns like it had been before. She could only supply 50 bottles of aged Titan liquor every day, so she had to brew even more Titan liquor, and sell bottles according to their year to provide to more customers and not depending on her father's old stash. Mag had also received many congratulations from their neighbors, and he also thanked them for their friendliness. Neighbors should take care of one another. As for these bosses' plans to refurbish their shops, Mag was very supportive too. One big reason that Romo Street lost its competitiveness was because all the shops on the street looked too old. The customers all favored new things. Apart from those old shops whose core competitiveness was their flavor, people liked to go after the new shops, even if those shops only looked new, "Father, these neighbors are so nice." The table in front of Amy was filled with food. It was given by the neighbors who came to congratulate them. Everyone knew that the tavern's boss had a pair of adorable daughters, so they gave them little snacks and little toys. Yes. They are the rare good neighbors. Mag nodded smilingly. Saipan Tavern brought back a gold award, and these neighbors were going to benefit from it directly. It was normal that they were so friendly. What made him happy was that Saipan Tavern's fame had already broken through 1,000 after the liquor tasting event in the morning. It had reached 2,122. Moreover, this number was still climbing steadily. With the power of the word of mouth and the recognition of the liquor tasting event, even customers who hadn't been to Saipan Tavern to taste it for themselves had become Saipan Tavern's fans too. It was indeed right to take part in this liquor tasting event. Mag nodded with satisfaction. Ding! Congratulations on completing the mission, the tavern's popularity has broken through 1,000. Reward received, a recipe for spicy escargot. The system's voice appeared in Mag's mind. Sucking escargots, Mag raised his brows slightly. This was no doubt a challenge to the people of the alternate world. Many chowhounds who came from flower-planting families couldn't even grasp that skill, they could only depend on toothpicks for help. Furthermore, it was rumored that a man who knew how to suck out an escargot had more choices when it came to selecting a mate. Of course, Mag didn't understand what that meant. It was just a rumor. The spicy escargots were a traditional side dish that went well with drinks. It was considered a little surprise as a reward. Mag knew how to suck out an escargot, and he was very popular with the ladies. That was quite true. Because the Saipan Tavern's Mao Tai received the liquor tasting event's gold award, Mag decided to give himself a day off to celebrate. A sign was hanging on the door. Mag flicked a glance at Titan Tavern that was under renovation. Those liquor lovers who came after hearing the news would most probably weep after seeing this scene. Little Amy, Annie, we are going out for an errand, and will only return later. You two stay at home by yourself, and don't leave the house, all right? Mag locked the door from the inside, and spoke to Annie and Amy, who had just returned from the wishing well with the snack gift package. Are you guys going to beat up the bad eggs? Amy asked. Yes. We are going to maintain the world's peace. Mag nodded with a smile. Amy's eyes lit up, and she looked at him expectantly. Can you bring me along too? I can fight very well too. Mag caressed her head, and said, not this time. This bad egg is very dangerous. You can go when you are older and stronger, Amy. All right. Amy nodded obediently. She didn't insist. Remember. Do not open the door no matter who comes along. The door is locked from within. No one can enter, Mag reminded them again, and watched the children go upstairs before stepping into the teleportation portal together with Irina. The tavern had the system's enhanced 9th tier defense and Irina's spell formations. As long as it wasn't attacked by many 10th tier powerhouses, it could hold until they returned home. Mag had just received Morant's letter. They had discovered an unusual spot in the north, and asked Mag to check it out. As the matter concerned the Great Old Ones, Mag naturally didn't dare to delay it. And Irina asked to go with him. No one knew how far north one could go, because the temperature dropped as one went further north. Moreover, there would also be snowstorms and hailstorms, so even a 10th tier giant dragon couldn't go through all those barriers easily. There were cases where a 10th tier giant dragon got lost in it. Just because of that, the snowy plain became a restricted area that all the races avoided. Right now, at an ice cliff 800 kilometers into the snow plain, Noah waved a piece of red cloth, guiding the purple-striped griffin in the sky to land. Noah already went up as soon as the griffin landed, and asked shyly, Boss Mag, did you bring any food? Mag looked at Noah, whose nose was red and eyebrows had icicles hanging from them, and smilingly took out a steaming mud case and a small soup pot. Noah stared and gulped. Wow, are they? Buddha jumps over the wall and beggars chicken. After staying in the ice plain for a few days, eating hard biscuits that were frozen solid and needed to thaw by the fire and sleeping by the fire at night, he was miserable. Noah almost cried when he saw the piping hot Buddha jumps over the wall and beggars chicken. With tears in his eyes, Noah bit into the beggar's chicken, and said to Mag, "Boss Mag, you are no different than my parent, don't, please don't. I don't have a son like you. Amy will despise you." Mag quickly rejected him, and looked at the entrance of the cave on the ice cliff. "You guys have arrived, Boss Mag." Morant quickly strode out of the cave. "Yes. What's the situation here?" Morant suddenly called him here, but Mag couldn't see anything unusual here. "Come with me. I'll explain as we walk." Morant brought Mag and Irina into the cave. "Grandpa, don't you want to eat the beggar's chicken and Buddha jumps over the wall before you work again?" Noah's voice sounded behind them. "You go ahead. I'm not hungry," Morant casually answered before saying to Mag, "We found this ice cave this morning. The Septaria oracle had a reaction, and we searched for a long time before we found this cave." Mag frowned as he said, "Josh was here." "We're not certain, but this ice cave was very weird. You'll know once you get in there." Morant didn't say much, and simply hastened his steps. After going through a long icy route, the cave became spacious. A giant ice cave appeared, and they were in the middle of it. Mag's eyes lit up. He didn't expect there would be a cave under the ice. Morant walked to the edge of the ice cliff and pointed downwards. "Look down." Mag and Irina looked down, and they turned solemn at the same time. There was a huge ice surface below the cave, and on top of it were countless human-shaped and beast-shaped holes, as if someone had dug them out from the ice. There were also some scattered bones and body parts in the holes. There were also recent bite marks. A creepy ambience shrouded the cave. "This is..." Mag frowned, feeling a chill up his back. Morant lamented, "I have once read an ancient book that recorded the snow plain in the north as an ancient battleground. Many races battled to their deaths here, and many bodies were left behind. These bodies were buried by the ice and snow, and many of them were preserved perfectly. People have been constantly finding ancient corpses in the snow plain, and many of them were mysterious corpses of unidentifiable races. If I'm not wrong, this should be one of the ancient battlefields, and many ancient corpses were buried here. Where are the ancient corpses now?" Mag suddenly felt rather uneasy. "They are missing. Judging from the marks left behind, it happened recently," Morant gravely said. "They should have been taken under control. There are remnants of the evil aura." "It's related to the devil," Irina said. She lifted her hand and released a beam of golden holy light. It reacted violently with a whiff of black evil aura left on the cliff surface. Mag was silent for a while before saying to Morant, "Which means Josh might have controlled the ancient corpses here, and transformed them into his servants." "Yes. If he had been simply absorbing the resentment here, there wouldn't have been these holes and bitten bodies left behind here." Morant nodded. "And I'm very familiar with the methods of controlling the corpses, but he's using a more sophisticated method that is similar to enchantment. But they were already dead for years. Only their bodies were preserved by the ice and snow. How could he enchant them?" Mag didn't understand them. "As long as the resentment exists, he is able to do it, but that is exactly the devil's scary part." Morant nodded slightly, and honestly said, "Even our ghost clan can do it through certain methods." Irina retracted her hand, and coldly said, "He didn't absorb the resentment, but instead chose to control these bodies. What does Josh want to do? When all the races on the Norland continent decide to put aside their differences and join forces to deal with the devil, Josh will need to have stronger power and more helpers." Mag looked at the densely packed corpses pits below with a complicated expression, and said, "These corpses will form a mighty undead army and follow him around to conquer the Norland continent. If that's the case, I'm afraid there are many more such ice caverns in the northern snow plain. There are many more ancient corpses that died in battle that were buried underneath it, Morant said gravely. Help! Grandpa, there are ghosts! Right then, a shrill sound rang out in the cave. Noah carried the Buddha jumps over the wall, and dashed over with a chicken drumstick in his mouth. Sounds of dense footsteps followed in his wake. At the same time, the ice walls around the cave suddenly exploded. Ancient corpses burst out from the ice walls, and rushed towards Mag and the rest. Countless ancient corpses crawled out from underground. They roared as they crawled up along the ice walls. There were thousands of them. Most of these ancient corpses looked weird. There were three-headed humanoid beasts, giant wooden spiders, giants that only had half of their heads left, monsters with green fur. They weren't any of the races or species that existed now. Their common characteristic was a red gleam glistening in their eyes as they charged at Mag crazily. Seems like it's a trap. He knew that we were coming right from the start. Mag pointed skywards, and the Tiandu sword shot into the walkway like a shadow. All the ancient corpses in the walkway were slaughtered. We need to leave this place. The terrain is disadvantageous to us. Irina raised her magic caster's staff, and the holy light burst out. The ancient corpses that rushed towards them were decimated. However, these ancient corpses seemed to be endless. After the holy light destroyed one batch of them, many still crawled out from the ground and the walls, and they almost covered all the walls. A teleportation talisman appeared in Irina's hands, and lit up on her fingertips. A golden light flashed under their feet, but a black evil aura suddenly appeared and erased it. Chapter 2092 Rankster. Irina frowned. She waved her hand and formed a magical shield between them and the attacking ancient corpses. Follow me. Let's get out of here first. Mag pressed the SOS button in his pocket, and the long sword flew back to his hand, rushing right into the cave. Countless ancient corpses surged out from the cave. However, they were no match for the Tiandu sword as it made a path through the wave of corpses. Morant protected Noya, who was hugging the Buddha jumps over the wall tightly, as they followed behind Mag, handling the ancient corpses which sprung an attack on them from the cliff. Irina took care of the back with her magic caster's staff. The holy light was just like a magical weapon in the narrow passageway, wiping out everything in the way. However, the cave started shaking vigorously halfway through, and the ceiling started collapsing. From the top, with a shout, Mag and the Tiandu sword merged as one, and they spiraled upwards. The everlasting ice became as weak as tofu in front of the Tiandu sword. A pathway wide enough for a person was forcefully made, and soon light pierced through the ice. Bam! The ice plane exploded, and a large hole was formed. Mag pierced through the ice with Tiandu sword in his hand. Before he could even heave a sigh of relief, a dark shadow dashed over. Mag wielded his sword subconsciously. Ding! The sound of stone and metal colliding rang loudly, making his eardrums hurt. Mag felt as though he was hit by a sprinting train, and he flew back uncontrollably. He turned in midair and stabbed the long sword into the ice to stabilize himself after flying 100 meters away. That black shadow rushed towards him once again. A black spear gleamed, and black armor was completely new. His face was expressionless and his gaze was rather empty, with a hint of redness in his eyes. Mag stood up with his sword in his hand, looking at that familiar face with mixed feelings. Mag did not expect to meet Rankster, who had gone missing, here. Rankster appeared in front of him immediately, and launched his attack. Mag, who was prepared, did not end up in a sorry state as before. However, he still took a few steps back. Rankster was also sent flying with a single blow. The spear was pierced into the ground, and he came to a stop after tens of meters. Powerful! Noya exclaimed. Morant and Irina were also stunned. There was no doubting Mag's powers. He had already exceeded the limit of the 10th tier. Although he could not be considered a god, he was still not somewhere a 10th tier could go close to. However, Rankster was able to fight it out with him without falling short, and that showed how strong he was. Vam! 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 At the same time, the surface of the ice shattered. The ancient corpses started crawling out, covering the entire plain, and rushing towards Morant and the rest. Mag blew a long whistle. Howl! Ozzy flew over from afar, and spat out a lightning ball, wiping out an entire patch of ancient corpses as it flew towards Irina. Rankster fixed his gaze on the purple-striped griffin. He raised the spear in his hand and aimed at Ozzy. I am your opponent! Mag shouted. He waved his hand, and Tiandu's sword transformed into a flash of light as it flew towards Rankster, targeting his heart. Rankster looked away. He retracted his spear, and aimed it towards the Tiandu sword which was flying toward him. The long sword was deflected, but Mag managed to catch it as he dashed towards Rankster once again. The two weapons clashed. Go up! Irina threw Noya up the purple-striped griffin as Morant jumped on the griffin's back as well. The purple-striped griffin quickly rose to the sky, dodging the stone axes thrown at them by a giant. At the same time, it spat out a string of lightning balls, striking that giant and turning it into a pile of stones. Why is there so much of this stuff? Noya said with a tremble in his voice as he looked at the plain full of ancient corpses. Even though he was sitting on the griffin's back, tens of thousands of meters above, he still could not see the end of the mob. I'm afraid Josh has already met up with the devil that has escaped from the seal, Irina said with a frown. The moment these ancient corpses go down south, the Norland continent might face a horrifying catastrophe. Morant's voice was also trembling. Let's clear the ancient corpses around first to lighten his load. Irina quickly looked away. She sang a magical chant, and used the holy light technique to wipe out some of the ancient corpses that were trying to go close to Mag. Morant grabbed a handful of black beans from the pocket at his waist and sprinkled it down. When they landed, they transformed into multiple black ghost-faced assassins, dashing towards the ancient corpses fearlessly. Noya hugged the Buddha jumps over the wall, and was just being useless throughout the entire journey. Mag and Rankster were almost at the climax of their battle. It was not something that the group could take part in or change. There were no fancy sword projections or overpowering fighting spirits. The battle between the two had gone back to fighting in its very basic form. A swordsman at his peak versus a spearman at his peak. Each attack was out to kill. Around them, all seemed calm. However, there were actually countless spatial cracks slit by the sword and spear. Some of the ancient corpses that barged in were cut into minced meat. Back then, when Alex was in his prime, his only worthy opponent was Rankster. Mag did not expect that after he broke through the 10th tier, he would meet Rankster again, and the latter would still be on par with him. The only difference was that this great powerhouse had already lost his senses, and had become a powerful general controlled by the Great Old Ones. Mag had mixed feelings. He lamented the loss of a great hero and Elizabeth's loss of her father. She had been looking for Rankster, chasing after him in vain. If she saw Rankster right now, what would she be feeling? Rankster! Rankster! Mag shouted at Rankster, trying to communicate with him. The red in Rankster's eyes seemed to flicker a little. However, Rankster quickly fell into a deeper fury and attacked Mag even harder. Mag's eyes lit up. There seemed to be a hint of consciousness left in Rankster. He was not completely under control. As Mag tried to block Rankster's attack, he continued calling out to him. However, there did not seem to be any obvious effect other than making him even more hysterical. Rankster! Elizabeth has been looking for you. Do you want her to see you like this? Mag shouted. Rankster paused in his dash forward. There was a sign of struggle on his face, and his eyes started to change between blue and red. It's effective. Mag was elated. After that, he said, for Elizabeth. For the Frost Dragon tribe. You must wake up. You're Rankster. The king of the Frost Dragon tribe, Elizabeth's father. You're not a devil. Li, Za, Rankster uttered with a painful expression. After that, he fell into his hysterical state again, and started attacking Mag. Mag looked at Rankster with his blood-red eyes, and while he blocked the attacks, he glanced across the sky. It was apparent that he was unable to wake Rankster up. However, there might be an ancient way. Right now, he could only pin his hopes on Xi to arrive quickly after seeing his message for help. What's that? Before Xi even arrived, Noya, who was on the griffin's back, called out as he pointed towards the north. The ice on the surface started to shake, and a gel-like organism the size of a hill covered in scales started crawling out from beneath the ice slowly. It raised its large bat wings, covering the Sunday one. Okay, the author exaggerated or doesn't really know much about such things. Chapter 2093 A gunshot. However, it didn't seem to have a head. It only had a gigantic body, which made it look even weirder. It's Thulhu, Morant said in a trembling voice with deep fear in his eyes. Seems like this is the one that escaped from under Dragon Island. Irina's expression turned very grave too. She was grabbing a few single-use talismans. Thulhu's power was undoubtable. Dozens of 10th-tier powerhouses couldn't do anything to it while it was in the seal outside Chaos City. And Mag, who could barely drag it down, was dragged down by Rankster, who was as strong as him. Without the seal as the shield, the three of them weren't this fellow's match even if they combined forces. Meanwhile, Thulhu's appearance made the ancient corpses descend into a greater craziness. Dozens of ancient corpses that could fly took to the air, and flew towards Irina in formations. Thulhu let out a sickening sound before wiggling towards Mag. Ice shattered along its path. The struggle in Rankster's eyes was gone, and a patch of red replaced it. Furthermore, his power seemed to be enhanced as he attacked Mag crazily. Mag retreated as he battled. At the same time, he shouted at Irina, Morant, and Noah. You guys leave first. Mag was feeling grave. He didn't expect to meet Thulhu when checking out an ice cave. Or perhaps, this had always been a trap that Thulhu had set from them, and they jumped into it themselves. Mag wasn't Thulhu's match now, and he only had a 50% chance of winning Rankster. The problem that he had to consider was how to escape and avoid being controlled by Thulhu and becoming a puppet like Rankster. Ozzy, go pick him up. Irina raised her magic caster's staff, and loudly chanted, Holy light, eliminate those evils. Glaring holy light shot out, and dozens of flying ancient corpses turned to dust. The sky turned clear. Howl. The purple-striped griffin let out a howl, and spat out a lightning ball as it dashed towards Mag. Right then, Thulhu suddenly turned towards them, and flapped its wings. Countless black whirlwinds appeared out of nowhere, and ripped space apart. They blocked the purple-striped griffin and gradually surrounded it. Slash! The black whirlwinds tore open the tough scales of the purple-striped griffin. Just them touching the griffin could tear a big wound open. The purple-striped griffin was in pain, and it swiftly turned around to avoid the black whirlwinds that had almost formed a wall. Irina applied healing magic onto Ozzy while coldly instructing, avoid them. Ozzy transformed into a purple bolt of lightning, and dashed towards Mag again from the side, but it was blocked by the whirlwinds, and wasn't able to break through. Morant used his ghost saber to slash the ancient corpses that appeared behind them stealthily, and said in a low voice, we have to leave right now. We won't be able to leave if he really starts to attack us. Noah was already completely in a daze with the Buddha jumps over the wall in his arms. He became a completely useless bystander. No matter what, we have to bring him along with us. Irina looked at Thulhu, who was wiggling towards Mag, and closed her eyes. Irina's body slowly rose up and hovered in the air. The golden red dot at her glabella began to light up, and a tiny golden tree pattern appeared within the red dot. It looked exactly like the tree of life. A faint green beam of light flew over from the horizon, and landed on her glabella. Irina opened her eyes, and her aura grew stronger and stronger. Grandpa, why do I feel that she looks a little different? Noah sort of regained his wits, and he stared at Irina, who was hovering in midair, with bewilderment. She's borrowing the power of God. Morant was also looking at Irina with shock. God of light, please bestow me with the power to eradicate this evil presence and cleanse all dirt and sins. Irina raised her magic caster's staff up. A crack was torn open in the dark sky. A beam of golden light landed on Irina and illuminated her. Irina's aura grew stronger again. Her whole body was engulfed by the holy light. She looked just like a god that one couldn't look straight at. Thulhu's gigantic body slowed down gradually, and then turned to face Irina. The body that was covered with scales glittered with red light as though little eyes were staring at Irina. Holy light, judge this evil. Let everything return to calmness. Irina pointed to her magic caster's staff at Thulhu. A huge beam of holy light shot out and rushed towards Thulhu. The black evil aura collided with the holy light, making a sound of something being corroded. Thulhu's body was engulfed by the holy light, and it actually began to shudder. It's working! Noah exclaimed with joy. Morant didn't appear too optimistic. Instead, he said to the purple-striped griffin, we'd better back up a little and take this chance to go through the whirlwinds. The purple-striped griffin seemed to understand his words, and it immediately swooped down. It found a gap that was close to the ground, and it went through it, almost touching the ground. It went straight towards Magtask Tisk. Thulhu made a sound that seemed like shattered glass rubbing against each other. Endless black evil aura gushed out, and eliminated all the holy light that engulfed him. The giant bat wings flapped slowly, lifting his huge body off from the ground. His body wiggled, and a black tentacle emerged from his abdomen. It stabbed towards Irina. Oh no! Mag parried Rankster away. He paled as he watched that tentacle stab towards Irina. Rankster was holding him back. Mag couldn't help Irina block that attack at that moment at all. Meanwhile, Irina seemed to have remained in that state after she borrowed power that didn't belong to her. Scram! Mag sent Rankster flying with one strike before tossing the Tiandu sword out with all his might. Swish! The Tiandu sword turned into a flash of light, and flew towards the tentacle that stabbed at Irina. It was too late. Mag's heart dropped to the freezing point. Thulhu's speed was faster than his. He had no way to slash that tentacle off before it reached Irina. The golden light in Irina's eyes began to dissipate, and then she saw the tentacle right in front of her. Right at that moment, a silver light tore open the space, and went straight through the top of the tentacle. At the same time, a loud bang of gunshot resounded. Chapter 2094 My Buddha jumps over the wall. Did I drop it? This was the first time he had heard such a wonderful gunshot sound in this world. The shot was clean and precise, matching the feeling that Xi gave him. A star-shaped battleship appeared in the void. The giant main electromagnetic gun aimed at Thulhu and rapidly recharged. Its three main cannons also aimed at Thulhu. What's that? Noah slowly stood up, and stared at the super iron battleship hovering in midair with disbelief. Morant also gulped, and softly said, no matter what it is, the good news if it's on our side. Boom! 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 The giant cannons roared. The giant bullet fired by the electromagnetic gun clashed with Thulhu, who was hovering in midair, and sent his huge body backwards before exploding. The terrifying explosive waves turned all the ancient corpses within a few hundred meters radius into dust. The purple-striped griffin had long turned and flew outwards, but it was still blown thousands of meters away by the explosion's aftermath. What a terrifying force! This giant iron beast's so terrifying. Noah stared blankly at it. Mag also backed off with his sword. This was the intense bombing by an advanced civilization's starship. He didn't want to get caught up in it. A round of bombing was completed within seconds. Thulhu, who looked like a small mountain, was pushed thousands of meters back by the bombing, and its body was charred. Its bat wings also had many holes. Meanwhile, the ancient corpses within 1,000 meters distance were reduced to charred bones. Okagi, Thulhu let out an indecipherable roar. It made the ancient corpses launch another attack on the starship, and tens of thousands of ancient corpses rushed towards them. They almost stacked together. Meanwhile, Thulhu also flapped its wings and took to the air. The holes on its wings repaired themselves rapidly, and the wings were soon as good as new. It flew towards the battleship too. Hop on! We can't kill it. Let's leave here first. Xi's icy cold voice sounded next to Mag's ears, and the ship's cabin deployed a passageway. Ozzy, enter through that passageway. Mag leaped onto the purple-striped griffin that flew next to him. They then flew close to Irina, and Mag grabbed her waist. They darted straight into the star-shaped battleship. The electromagnetic gun at the front of the ship that had finished recharging fired another shot. At the same time, a few cluster bombs were dropped. With the electromagnetic gun's recoil, they got away from Thulhu. A rip was created in space, and they left. Mag looked at the mushroom cloud that rose up in the plane as they retreated rapidly, and heaved a breath of relief. He felt he had just escaped from death. It's so terrifying. Noah slumped onto the ground. He was soaked with sweat as though he was exhausted. What was precious was that the earthen jar that held the Buddha jumps over the wall in his arms actually stayed intact. Morant panted loudly. Although he had experienced life and death many times in his life, he didn't want to die in Thulhu's hands no matter how. He didn't want his corpse to end up in its possession. Only then did he realize his naivety. He had actually tried to find Thulhu and kill it for the past hundreds of years. Irina approached Mag, grabbed his hand, and concernedly asked, "Are you all right?" "I'm fine. It's just a small injury." Mag shook his head. He looked at the wound on his arm that was slashed open by Rangster's spear. "What's this?" Irina asked as she used healing magic on Mag. It was a spacious room with iron walls. Only the out-facing sides were transparent glass. "She saved us," Mag said. Irina was thoughtful, but she kept quiet. Right then, the door at the side opened, and a woman in a white tight bodysuit walked out from the control bay. Noah and Morant turned and looked at her with shock before descending into unconsciousness immediately. "I will erase their memories," Xi said to Mag, and then her gaze landed on Irina. "This is my wife. She's someone who should know about this, and she can keep a secret." Mag introduced Irina. "Thank you for saving me." Irina thanked Xi. If Xi hadn't appeared earlier, Thulhu's tentacle would have pierced her heart. Xi nodded slightly and retracted her hand. "Thulhu has controlled many ancient corpses. I'm afraid this ice plane will become the source of his army. The countless ancient corpses are going to bring a catastrophe to the Norland continent," Mag told Xi with a grave expression, and then asked, "Perhaps, the Elder Things has a solution to kill it. Thulhu won't die and can't be destroyed. We can only reseal it. Even the Elder Things cannot kill it." Xi shook her head. Mag felt dread. Xi and the Elder Things' advanced battleship were still unable to kill Thulhu. This wasn't good news. It wasn't easy if they could only reseal it. The Elder Things made a promise before. They cannot enter the Norland continent en masse. You have to depend on yourselves to defend against Thulhu and the zombie horde that it controls. Xi shook her head. "Are you for real?" Mag raised his eyebrows. The individual strength of the ancient corpses couldn't be underestimated. They were estimated to have kept about 60% of their power from when they were alive. Moreover, they were unafraid of death under Thulhu's control. They were the perfect loyal soldiers. The group were not sure how many ancient corpses were controlled by Thulhu. If there were millions of them, even the entire Roth Empire couldn't stop them from moving southwards. Stopping the ancient corpse army is the crux, but only killing Thulhu or resealing it can solve the root of the problem, Irina lamented. Furthermore, although we didn't see Josh today, what happened today seemed to be his arrangement. Xi nodded. Thulhu was cut in two when it was sealed back then. Its head was sealed at the central seal point, while its lower half was sealed under Sky Isle. Its head is even better at mind control. These ancient corpses aren't controlled by its lower body. They might be indirectly controlled by the puppet that had entered the head's control. We missed it today. It won't be easy to find it again in this vast snow field. Mag frowned. I have placed a tracking device on it. I can locate its position. Xi raised up a virtual screen, and a red dot was moving quickly on it. But the problem now isn't finding it, but how to reseal it and find the head that is controlling the ancient corpses. Mag looked at Xi's virtual screen and nodded. As long as we can locate him, we can resolve it with the seal spell formation. We can also think of a solution to reseal it. However, the most important thing is to unify all the races and quickly establish an alliance to defend against the zombies and prevent them from moving southwards. The advanced civilization was undependable. They could depend on themselves to rescue the Norland continent. The star-shaped battleship stopped 800 kilometers away from Rodu. Xi erased part of Noah's and Morant's memories by hypnotism before letting them leave with Mag. Don't come over. Noah suddenly jumped up on the griffin's back, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. He looked around and met Mag's eyes. Mag was squatting next to him. Then, he snapped his head around and saw Morant, who was slowly waking up. He finally heaved a sigh of relief. What's going on? Morant also sat up and slapped his groggy head. They had met Thulhu in the snow plain earlier, and were in a dire situation. He was suddenly attacked and knocked out just as he was about to be swallowed. Our luck was not bad. We escaped. Mag tossed 2 water bottles to them. But it isn't too good, either. Thulhu has controlled the ancient corpses in the snow field. Its power has grown exponentially. They may invade the south at any time. We have to establish a resistance alliance before it acts. Noah tilted his head back and gulped down half of the bottle's water. He looked at his hands, and then looked around at a loss before saying, "My Buddha jumps over the wall. Did I drop it?" There was probably nothing better than to be able to leave that icy plain, return to the large city full of beautiful ladies on the streets, and even have a piping hot meal. Mag brought Noya and Morant back to Rodu, back to that house they stayed at. He naturally would not have time to make the Buddha jumps over the wall for them. It seemed like he could only reward them with 2 packs of instant noodles. Instant noodles? This name sounds rather evil. Noya observed the mysterious pack of food while squatting by the table. Do you know how to cook? Morant rolled a stick for himself and smoked as he glanced at Noya. Boss Mag says that you do not need to know how to cook to eat instant noodles. You just have to boil water, and pour everything in this packet into a bowl. After that, pour some hot water, and wait for a while, Noya replied, and started cooking. 5 minutes later, the 2 of them, with a bowl in each of their hands, gulped the soup down, and even licked the bowl clean. To think that I am so good at cooking. It was all wasted talent, Noya exclaimed as he put his bowl down. If you had had this skill in the past, we wouldn't have had to starve in the wild. Morant passed Noya 2 chestnuts. Noya cupped his face, and said with grievance, "Grandpa, this is my newly developed skill. You will have a chance to use it." Morant continued smoking. "But, Grandpa, what should we do now? We can't defeat that Thulhu," Noya said after he kept the silverware. In the past, he had been very confident, and had wanted to go devil hunting with his grandpa. Now, he knew how scary the devil was, and had lost all his fighting spirit. This was not an opponent of their level. Even if the devil did not do anything, he could not kill it, either. Boss Mag went to seek an alliance with the other races. The Ghost Clan can also play its part. Morant placed his cigarette down. If Thulhu were to take control of the entire Norland continent, everything would be gone. Mag made 10 copies of the photo stone, and sent it to the hands of the people in power at the various tribes through Chaos City. After that, he went straight to the Rodu's palace with Irina. The purple-striped griffin hovered in mid-air outside the palace, and let out a long howl. Immediately, the aura of more than 20 powerhouses came out from within the palace. There were also countless powerhouses rushing over from the center of Rodu. Multiple defense spell formations were put up, guarding the multiple palace halls. In an instant, the palace was in battle mode. Immediately, Mag and Irina were targeted. The sudden appearance of Alex and Irina outside the palace took all the powerhouses in Rodu by surprise. "Alex! What matter do you have here so late in the palace?" a powerful voice shouted from the city wall. Mag looked at the armored general at the city wall, and said loudly, "Marshal Dominic, I need to see King Andre. This concerns the Norland continent's safety. Please pass the message to him." "Sure. Please hold on while I get my man to report this to His Majesty," Dominic replied, and instructed his subordinate to report the matter. Hundreds of 9th tier and 10th tier powerhouses started arriving, standing in formation outside the palace. They watched the purple-striped griffin, as well as the 2 legendary silhouettes on the griffin's back, warily. The 2 parties were at a silent standstill. Rodu Palace was the safest place on the Norland continent. No matter how strong Alex was, he would never be able to barge into the palace. Even if there were more than 20 powerhouses present in the Roth Empire, they were not confident of capturing Alex and Irina outside the palace. His Majesty has ordered to invite Alex and Irina into the palace. Not long later, a voice echoed from within the palace. "Open the palace gates," Dominic commanded. The palace doors opened slowly, and the guards standing at the door turned to their side to make way. The purple-striped griffin landed. Mag and Irina hopped off the griffin, and walked into the palace. Dominic led multiple 10th tier powerhouses down to welcome Mag and Irina. "Follow me," Dominic said as he walked in front, and led the 2 into the depths of the palace. 6 10th tier powerhouses followed closely behind them, constantly wary of the 2 of them. Mag was silent. The decision had to be made by Andre. To prevent unnecessary panic, it would be best for fewer people to know about it. The group walked through the long palace corridors, and finally stopped outside a palace hall. "Marshal Dominic, Alex, and Irina, please," the official at the door said in a loud voice. Dominic walked into the hall first. Mag and Irina exchanged glances before following him in. This was a meeting hall. It was where Andre would discuss matters with his subordinates. Back then, Alex was a regular here too. Mag's night visit caused the hall to be brightly lit. However, there was only Andre sitting on the master seat. The moment Mag entered the hall, he was locked onto by multiple powerhouses. Mag glanced at the shadow behind Andre. He furrowed his brows, but quickly regained his composure. Dominic sat to the left of Andre. "Alex, Irina, please take a seat," Alex said with a smile as he motioned for them to take a seat. Mag and Irina sat in the last row of seats. "What matter do the 2 of you have at such wee hours?" Andre asked Mag. "This is what we experienced today in the snowy plain in the extreme north of the Roth Empire. Your Majesty, please take a look." Mag pulled out a photo stone. Andre raised his hand, and an attendant walked over quickly to retrieve the photo stone from Mag's hand. After that, he played it with the apparatus in the meeting hall. This was a video Mag told the system to record down during his battle. The video captured images of the ancient corpses that had vanished from the underground cavern, his battle with Rankster, as well as Thulhu crawling up from beneath the ice, commanding countless ancient corpses to launch an attack on them. This. Andre's and Dominic's expression changed when they saw the footage. Dominic even sprang right up from his chair. "This? What is this?" Andre's voice was trembling. Although it was just footage, the unknown gel-like organism covered in scales was still an impactful image. He could even feel the fear from deep within his soul. This is Thulhu, a devil from hell. It is a monster that has escaped the seal at Golden Dragon Island and cannot be killed, Mag introduced calmly. It controlled those ancient corpses. To make them fight for it? Dominic asked Mag. Yes. It used some way to control these ancient corpses, and made them maintain 50 to 60% of their powers from when they were alive. On top of that, these ancient corpses were fearless, and would abide by all commands. Mag nodded. Dominic's expression turned grave. As the Marshal of the Empire, he knew very clearly what such ghost soldiers meant. No matter how elite the Empire's cavalry was, he was unable to ensure that every soldier would be fearless, and would abide by all commands. Andrei had regained his composure as he asked Mag, "Are they heading south?" "I think it did not revive these dead souls to throw them a party in the icy plains," Mag said with a smile. "Andrei, it seems your previous conjecture was right. The seal beneath Golden Dragon Island was related to Rankster. He had already sold his soul to the devil," Dominic said solemnly, and had a hint of pity in his eyes. Heroes would appreciate each other. As the other party was one of the strongest in this world, Dominic had a rather good impression of Rankster. However, judging from the footage before, Rankster did lose himself, and turned into the devil's puppet. Rankster still has a hint of consciousness. "He has yet to be fully under control," Mag retorted. However, he did not mention Elizabeth. "If the devil brings the army of the dead down south, what would you do?" Andrei asked Mag. "If the dead souls and the army of the dead head south, they will first head to the Roth Empire. That is unavoidable." Mag looked at Andrei. "I am here to notify you to be prepared for the battle and not be caught off guard." Andrei watched Mag for a while, but he did not speak further. "You want me to defeat the devil and army of the dead solely with the power of the Roth Empire alone?" Andrei said with a frown. "If you can't, the Roth Empire will definitely be the first to be wiped out." Mag nodded. Dominic fell silent. The road down south from the Northern Highlands to the Roth Empire would get increasingly flat. If the devil and its army of the dead wanted to go down south, their only choice would be to start from the Roth Empire. The Roth Empire had no choice at all. Andrei's expression turned solemn. He said, "Then what will happen after the Roth Empire is wiped out? Can the other races be spared?" Mag looked at him calmly, and said, "This is actually not what I should be thinking about. Even if I wished to connect all races to form an alliance against the devil and the army of the dead, the final decision would still ultimately fall on the hands of you people in power. You should know better than anyone how this would affect the fate of the entire Norland continent." Andrei said as he looked into Mag's eyes. Mag asked, "Do you think the different races would send their troops to help the Roth Empire fend off the devil and the army of the dead if there was no peace accord? Are you threatening me?" "No, I am just telling you that there is no point in threatening me at a time like this." Mag pointed at the final image of Thulhu on the screen, and said, "If you think that the Roth Empire alone can handle this fellow, this world will be yours." Andrei looked at Mag and fell silent. Ever more silent. Mag looked at him calmly, and did not speak further, either. Dominic broke the silence as he stood up, and told Andrei, "Your Majesty, we need the help of the various races." As the Marshal of the Empire and the commander of the three military forces, he had to clearly tell His Majesty what kind of situation and enemy the Empire was facing. 1. As a condition, every race in the Peace Alliance had to deploy a large army to stop the devil and its army of the dead from coming southwards together with the Roth Empire. "Where are we going now?" Irina asked Mag. "You'll go home first. I don't feel good letting the two children stay at home on their own. I need to make a trip back to Chaos City to talk to Michael," Mag said. "All right. Be careful on the road." Irina nodded and returned to the tavern right away with the teleportation portal. The purple-striped griffin took to the sky, and flew out of the city and towards the south. In the Great Hall, Andrei asked Dominic, "With the Roth Empire's military might, what are our chances of defeating that army of the dead?" 50%, Dominic answered. Then, why shouldn't we fight? Even though there is a 50% chance of winning, Your Majesty, we won't have any usable soldiers left even if we won, Dominic gravely said. The dead are different from the living. They have no fear. They have to be completely killed. They have no idea of surrender or failure. The snow plain in the far north was an ancient battlefield. Countless ancient corpses were buried there. If the devil has really controlled them, I'm afraid we will be facing an army made up of terrifying numbers. Your Majesty, we can still fight with the army of the dead, but we have no way to deal with the devil on our own. At the seal at Chaos City, I have witnessed the horror of that thing with my own eyes. It cannot be killed or dispatched by 10th-tier powerhouses working together. Andrei was quiet for a long time before he sighed deeply. The photo stones that were sent to the giant dragons were delivered to Douglas and Lewis, who were still in Rodu, immediately. After the two of them watched the images in the photo stone in the secret chamber, they looked at each other, and saw shock in each other's eyes. Do you think that it's real? Do you think Alex would lie to us? The two of them were quiet for some time again. Rankster is indeed being controlled by the devil, and his power was elevated. He is able to fight with Alex head-on, Douglas said with a complex expression. Lewis looked equally grim when he gravely said, a devil that has escaped from the seal is the most problematic, and now it's even controlling a huge number of ancient corpses. This is a catastrophe that can sweep through the Norland continent. We, the giant dragons, have no way to stay out of it. Douglas looked at the image that was paused on that indescribable thing, and felt very heavy-hearted. Lewis nodded, and said, we can only wait for the results of Alex and Andrei's negotiation. If he can get Andrei to join the peace alliance and sign the peace accord, then all the races can work together and deal with the devil and its army of the dead. What's that? After writing the diary and finishing her report, XI discovered a brown little soup pot in a corner of the spaceship. The little soup pot looked ordinary. Its workmanship wasn't sophisticated, and it was even a little rough. It should have been left behind by Mag and his gang. XI picked it up and shook it gently. There was the sound of liquid sloshing around. After hesitating for a while, XI opened the soup pot's cover. A rich aroma whiffed out from the little soup pot, and quickly filled the cabin. Smells good. XI's eyes lit up, and she stared at the little pot in her hands with disbelief. This was a pot of soup. There were all kinds of ingredients floating in the brown soup. Although the soup was cold, it still gave off an irresistible smell. It was even more enticing than the pig tongue salad and pig ears salad that she ate that day. Did they leave this food behind by accident? XI's throat moved. Mark, unknown food item number 1. As an observer, she had a duty to investigate all unknown stuff on the Norland continent, including food. According to the humans' dining habits, they will heat up the food to kill the germs and bacteria and make the food taste and smell better. XI put the little pot into the heating facilities, and then set a heat-up timing. Ding! The heating process was completed. XI set up a small dining table, and took out the little pot that was heated up. XI turned on the video device, and focused it on the little pot and herself before removing the cover of the little pot. Steam rose up. The aroma followed after it and blossomed. XI's eyes widened a bit, and she stared at the little pot in front of her with disbelief. This aroma was indeed too special and too impactful. I smell its aroma. There should be some kind of mushrooms, seafood, and meat inside. It's difficult to describe this smell with a vague concept. It has clear layers of smell, and yet they all fused together perfectly and harmoniously. It's a very exquisite and enticing aroma. The unique thing is, I smelled alcohol's aroma in it. They actually used alcohol to cook. XI talked to the camera. She had never expected herself to use so many adjectives and say so many words. This wasn't her usual style. However, in order to accurately describe this food item, she had to describe it like that. Xi pulled the camera closer. One can see that there are many ingredients in this soup. Meat, shellfish, mushrooms, and many other ingredients that I don't recognize. What is amazing is that although the soup is brown, it's very clear. It doesn't look murky or greasy. The food's condition is perfect. There are so many ingredients, and yet they were so precisely controlled. This chef must possess very strong control. Xi put the camera further away before scooping up a spoonful of soup. She waited for a while before putting it into her mouth. The tasty broth slowly nourished the taste buds. Xi felt that her drowsy taste buds were slowly awakened as if they were being nourished by a spring rain. This sensation of being comforted felt so beautiful. All the different ingredients slowly entered the stage, and released their amazing flavors on the tongue in that mouthful of soup. Even the brain of Xi, who had super senses, couldn't differentiate all the tastes accurately in the short period of time. She closed her eyes, and seemed to see mushrooms that had just sprouted, a shellfish that was crawling on the seafloor, and a wild chicken that was walking in the grass. Fresh. Freshness and the taste of umami. The rich liquor's aroma seeped into the soup, and gave the latter an even more intoxicating taste. Xi opened her eyes, and looked into the camera silently for a while before taking another sip quietly. It's difficult to describe the taste of this soup. It's so exquisite and fresh. None of the food that I have tasted before can compare to it, Xi said to the camera. Now, we will taste the ingredients in this soup. Xi used the spoon to scoop up a piece of shark's fin, and put it next to her lips. It glided straight into her mouth. The shark's fin soaked in the soup had a very special texture and beautiful taste. It glided around in the mouth before it was swallowed. Then, she tried the chicken. The diced chicken wasn't mushy as she thought it would be, instead, it was perfectly soft and tender. Furthermore, it wasn't just the taste of chicken. The fragrance of the wine, seafood, and mushrooms and all the different aromas of different meats had merged together and seeped into the chicken. All the ingredients' taste were integrated with one another, and one could sense different flavors in all the ingredients. The chicken was soft but not mushy when chewed, and there was an endless aftertaste. I'm sorry. I seem to have forgotten to explain the process. Xi stared at the empty little soup pot in silence for a long time. This recording ends here. Unknown food item number 1, incomplete. Xi turned off the camera, and stared at the little soup pot for some time. What kind of food exactly is this? She actually couldn't control her curiosity. As a formally trained observer, this was an emotion that she shouldn't have. The content in this photo stone is enough to let all the races reconsider their current situation, and the Roth Empire joining the Peace Alliance means that the pro-war alliance has lost its main support, and is no longer a threat. Michael shook his head. He put down the letter of commitment in his hands, and said to Mag, Alex, the people of the Norland continent should thank you guys. Mag smilingly said, if there are still people who crave war among the demon race, tell them to eradicate all unstable factors in the rear before the Allied forces go to the north to attack the army of the dead. Michael also smiled after hearing that. In order to deal with those ancient corpses, I have come up with a weapon of mass destruction, but I'll need Chaos City's support if I have to mass produce it. Mag took out a pile of blueprints. This is bombs. Next, Mag went to the textile factory, and met up with Ashley. As Irina's closest aide, Ashley was one of the few people who knew his identity. The situation in the north is tense. I hope the textile factory can stop all its current production first, and quickly produce this batch of cannons. Mag passed the stack of blueprints to Ashley. Ashley took the blueprints, and asked, is this the princess order? Mag nodded with a smile. Her order should reach you by tomorrow. Ashley nodded before flipping through the blueprints. After a while, she said to Mag, the elves are not good at forging. If it's urgent, it'll be more efficient to let the dwarven blacksmiths do it. This stuff is more special. I don't want others to handle it at the moment. I only trust the night elves. Mag shook his head, and solemnly said, I need you to put all your production force into making the cannons. This might prevent mass casualties among our troops. All right. Ashley nodded gravely. Mag worked out some problems in the workmanship with Ashley, and asked her to look for him whenever she encountered any issues. Then, he left Chaos City. Host, your behavior has already seriously affected the Norland continent's normal development. It might trigger a series of upheavals and attract God's attention and punishment. The system's voice rang out. System, this is a world where an advanced civilization exists. They are already driving space battleships and using electromagnetic guns. It isn't too much for me to use cannons, right? Furthermore, I am making cannons to maintain this world's stability. Isn't it too much to say that I trigger upheavals? Mag said with pursed lips. Xi's performance at the snow plane today gave him an extreme shock and revelation. A space battleship could clear tens of thousands of ancient corpses easily at full power. If they were to send the Roth Empire's knights to the front line, they would really be fighting with their lives then. Electromagnetic guns were too overboard, and Mag didn't have the ability to make them. However, cannons were different. Mag had already modified the cannon from the 16th century. It would have a powerful lethality, yet was not so advanced that it would attract the Elder Thing's attention. The zombie army had no weakness psychologically. They would charge forward fearlessly under Thulhu's control. However, after being buried for eons in the ice, their bodies weren't as tough as one imagined. Moreover, the number of magic casters among the Allied forces was limited. Additionally, each cannon could be deemed a magic caster that could release fireball magic. If they could manufacture a huge batch of cannons before the war started, it would definitely play an important role in the war. Mag's idea was simple. The more army of the dead they could kill, the lower the Allied forces' casualties would be. Of course, he had to avoid being targeted by the Elder Things due to the technology that had advanced too quickly. He didn't want to be sliced up and studied yet. They actually escaped. Interesting, in an ice cavern, Josh sat on an ice throne, and smilingly spoke to Rankster at the bottom. Rankster was silent. Since they have escaped, then it's time for us to move southwards. We have been quiet for too long. Perhaps many have already forgotten our existence. Josh rubbed his hands together gently and smirked. Rankster nodded and left the ice cavern. Alex. The resentment is quite strong. Don't worry. I'll help you get him and make his life hell, a low voice echoed throughout the ice cavern. ******* The photo stones sent to all the races caused a huge stir. The devil that had failed to break through the seal in Chaos City had already let them witness the horror of the Great Old Ones. This devil that had already broken out of the seal and amassed a terrifying number of ancient corpses made them shudder. All the races' representatives had already set out for Chaos City. This event was one that concerned all the races' fate on the Norland continent. Even the demons who were isolated on the islands didn't think they would be excluded from that fate. Before going back to Rodu, Mag made a trip to the employees' dormitory. Elizabeth still wasn't back yet. Mag sighed. He didn't know how she would feel if she knew about Rankster's current state. Taking advantage of the dark night, the purple-striped griffin took to the air again, and flew towards the north. Mag only reached the tavern in Rodu close to dawn, so he decided to make breakfast as well. Mag scooped a bowl of porridge for Irina as he told her, I made a trip to the textile factory yesterday, and got the night elves to build me a batch of weapons. Ashley might need your authorization. I'll write her a letter later. Irina nodded and took the porridge from Mag. What did Michael say? His ideas have always been similar to ours. Let's leave the Peace Alliance and the New Resistance Alliance to him. He's much more professional than us. The two children were still asleep. Mag got himself a bowl of porridge, and sat across from Irina. If Oster and those few demon tribes are still making trouble, we'll take care of them first before signing the peace treaty and setting off for the north. That's good. We will settle the problems once and for all. Irina nodded slightly. We're still not sure about the elder things stand right now. If they could participate in the war, the ancient corpses would just be cannon fodder no matter how many of them there were. Even the lethality of one battleship is many times that of dozens of 10th-tier powerhouses combined. Mag frowned. What we should worry about now are Thulho and Josh. As long as we deal with them, the issue of the army of the dead will be resolved too. Irina shook her head gently. Mag nodded, and said, let me nap for a while before we set off for the north. We'll find a place suitable to set up the seal spell formation. The 30-year-old Titan liquor brew was priced at 3,000 copper coins a bottle and 999 copper coins a cup. This was currently the only liquor on the drinks menu. There were other side dishes with no changes in pricing. However, Eofi had changed their supplier recently, and had higher standards for the taste. Currently, only we have this liquor. On top of that, the liquor will decrease the more we sell it. The price might be a little higher, but that should not be a problem. Eofi shook her head slightly. She sighed, and said, as for the regulars, they can only wait for me to brew the Titan liquor and wait for the launch of a shorter year Titan liquor brew. If we sell out all 50 bottles a day, we will be able to reach 150,000 copper coins in a day's revenue. Mela's eyes lit up. All you think about is money. Clean the tavern up quickly. We are officially opening for business tonight, Eofi said angrily as she smacked Mela's head. All right. Mela ran to a corner to pick up the broom. Eofi looked at the brand new tavern, and smiled gladly. From today onwards, Titan Tavern finally returned. She had knocked down the wall separating the next shop, and expanded Titan Tavern by 2 times so that the tavern, which could only hold around 20 tables before, could now fit 50 tables of customers. Maybe many had forgotten that other than Mag, Eofi also owned the shops on almost half of Romo Street. Back when Titan Tavern was in its heyday, her father's favorite pastime was to buy shops. Other than Romo Street, she had many shops around Rodu. If it were not for her passion, she would only have to go around in a horse-drawn carriage to collect rent, and would not have to coop herself up in the brewery. After looking around the tavern, Eofi returned to the brewery behind the tavern. The distillation equipment after Mag's revamp utilized coal, which could last longer, as fuel. On top of that, Eofi did not have to keep a constant watch on it during the distillation process, and just had to check on its progress. That simplified the distillation process significantly. The grape essence evaporated in the distillation equipment after it was fermented. The vaporized essence then flowed through a long tube into the wine storage, and condensed into an almost transparent liquid. In the past, the entire brewery would be full of steam when she brewed wine, and the wine fragrance would be wafting everywhere. Now, there was almost no steam escaping in the brewery, and all the essence was retained in the best way. Ding! A crisp indicator sounded. Eofi, who was deep in thought, was stunned for a while. After that, she recalled that she had to close the air valve to the stove to put out the fire. The first Titan liquor brew with the new apparatus was finally out. Eofi was full of excitement and anticipation. The pressure indicated on the pressure valve decreased, and when the pressure was completely balanced, Eofi brought a cup over to the tap at the wine storage, and turned the tap on. Clear and transparent liquid gushed out, together with a strong alcohol fragrance. Success! Eofi was elated. This fragrance was exactly the same as what she had smelled back then when she had been playing while her father had brewed wine. This was also what she had been looking for and trying to create for the past decade with nothing but failure to show for it. She did not expect that she would successfully brew the authentic Titan liquor after Mr. Hades changed the brewing apparatus and simplified the procedure. It's a success. Young mistress, it's a success. Mela, who just walked into the brewery, exclaimed. This is only half the success. Titan liquor without at least 2 years of storage is without a soul. Eofi shook her head, and said, Mela, go and retrieve the oak barrel. I want to make this brewed wine into a qualified Titan liquor before transferring it into the barrel. All right, Mela replied. By the time the first barrel of Titan liquor was all filled into the oak barrel, it was already 3 in the afternoon. Young mistress, this is too heavy. We won't be able to move it. Mela patted the oak barrel that was almost her height. This was a supersized barrel that could fill 300 bottles. Leave it here first. I'll get someone over to help move it into the cellar tomorrow. Eofi wiped the perspiration on her forehead with a silk handkerchief. She looked at the clothes that were soaked in perspiration with dismay, and said, I am going to wash and change. After that, I'll take a break before opening the tavern at night. I'll boil some water for you, Mela replied. On the first day after Titan Tavern and Saipan Tavern both won the Gold Award, they stood everyone up, which became an incident that all wine lovers would diss. However, precisely because everyone did not even get a sip of water, the two taverns seemed even more mysterious, and attracted more curiosity. Some rumors about Saipan Tavern also started spreading as well. Among them was news that Duke Abraham and Princess Vanessa were regulars of this tavern. The identity of the tavern owner was rather mysterious. Hers. While everyone was curious about Mao Tai, they also secretly reminded themselves to be careful at Saipan Tavern. Before nightfall, there were already customers pacing around the tavern doors. However, as though the two taverns had discussed it, both doors were still tightly shut, and did not appear to be ready for business. Those who came early could not help but complain. Eofi looked at the 8 service staff members from Titan Tavern, and said solemnly, Today is the first day of Titan Tavern's opening. It is also the first day we've upgraded into a high-class tavern. All of you, buck up. No mistakes are allowed. Yes, everyone replied. At the same time, in Saipan Tavern, Mag looked at the increasing number of customers outside with a frown, and said, It looks like our tavern should start hiring service staff. Otherwise, we won't be able to cope with the number of customers. We also have to find someone to operate the tavern when we leave in the future. Do you need me to arrange some manpower from the Night Elves? Irina asked. No. This is Rodu. We have to hire humans. Mag shook his head. Not every elf could disguise themselves, and it would be easier to find staff in Rodu. I'll be going to the Wind Forest tonight. I'll leave this place to you. Irina placed her bowl down, wiped her mouth elegantly, and smiled. Mag looked at the crowd outside, and could already imagine how chaotic it would be. Chapter 2099. Is this a failure? Then, where should we start from? Saipan Tavern, of course. We only tasted a teeny bit that day, and we didn't get to sample it closely. I've been craving it for the past 2 days. Fergus headed straight for Saipan Tavern without any hesitation. That's indeed the case. Kurt followed after him with a smile. The Saipan Tavern today was much busier than before. This wasn't friendly to those regulars who were already used to drinking in Saipan Tavern. However, they heard that Mao Tai had gotten the gold award at the liquor tasting event. Looking at the shiny golden trophy on the bar cabinet, they felt a tinge of pride too. This shop's renovation style looks rather vintage. Kurt entered the tavern and sized up the tavern's environment. There was no glamorous decoration and lighting. The down-to-earth wood and dark colors were the main tone. It made people feel comfortable and cozy. They didn't come too late, but there were only 2 vacant tables left now. You'll take a seat over there first while I go place the order, otherwise we might end up with no seats at all, Kurt said to Fergus. Sure. Fergus nodded with a smile. Speaking of it, it had been years since they had to worry about getting a seat. Kurt came to the bar, and looked up at the drink list on the wall. Mao Tai 2,000 copper coins a bottle. It was surprisingly cheap. There were plenty of expensive alcoholic beverages in Rodu, but none could hold a candle to Mao Tai when it came to quality. The price of 2,000 copper coins per bottle was absolutely reasonable. Whiskey 2,000 copper coins a bottle. What kind of alcoholic beverage is this? Kit's interest was piqued instantly. It was priced the same as Mao Tai, so perhaps its quality was comparable to the former's? Kurt looked around, but he couldn't find any service staff to place his orders. "May I ask, what would you like to order?" a soft and cute voice spoke up. Kurt took 2 steps forward before he noticed a little girl sitting behind the counter. The little girl was tiny, but she was really adorable. Kurt revealed a kind smile, and said, "I would like to have a bottle of Mao Tai, a bottle of whiskey, and a helping of all the side dishes." "Sure." Amy nodded before quickly continuing, "The total is 4,120 copper coins. Because we're too busy, we settle the bill in advance." Kurt, who was about to return to his seat, faltered in his steps after hearing that. He only saw the boss being busy in the kitchen alone in the big tavern, with only a little maiden serving the dishes. They were indeed very busy. "What if we need more to drink later?" Kurt teased as he took out his money bag. "What you should consider is how to return home after you get drunk later," Amy replied with a smile. Kurt was slightly taken aback before he smiled confidently again. He had been drinking for decades. He had drunk all kinds of hard liquors and wines before, and he was never drunk just after drinking 1 bottle. "All right, I want to see if this liquor is really so strong." Kurt settled the bill and returned to his seat with a smile. Fergus smilingly asked, "Why are you so happy? This boss daughter is so interesting." "I ordered 2 bottles of liquor, and she was worried that we would get drunk," Kurt smilingly said. "Just 2 bottles? The little girl hasn't seen how we drank 10 bottles each when we were young." Fergus laughed too. "I saw that there is another type of liquor called whiskey in this tavern beside Mao Tai. It's also priced at 2,000 copper coins like Mao Tai, so I ordered a bottle of whiskey and a bottle of Mao Tai each. We can order more later after we taste them." "Whiskey?" Fergus said with shock. "Since it's priced similarly to Mao Tai, it means it's a liquor that is on par with Mao Tai in the boss heart. Interesting. I want to see if this boss can indeed brew another equally outstanding liquor as Mao Tai," Kurt smilingly said. The 2 of them waited for a while before Mag came over with 2 bottles of liquor and 3 side dishes. Mag wasn't surprised to see Kurt and Fergus, because he had already seen many familiar faces from the liquor tasting event. Mag put the things down, and smilingly said, "I didn't expect the 2 of you to come too. We only had a few sips that day. It wasn't enough, so we naturally had to come try it again." Kurt looked at the 2 bottles on the table, and curiously asked, "Mr. Hades has 2 kinds of liquor, so why did you only send Mao Tai to the liquor tasting event?" "I heard that the liquor tasting event only had 1 gold award." Mag nodded slightly before walking to the kitchen. Kurt and Fergus were slightly taken aback. They only regained their wits after Mag turned around. "I haven't seen such confidence in young people for a long time." Kurt looked at Mag's back. "I want to see what the whiskey he's worried about not having an extra gold award to give to is like." Fergus took that bottle of whiskey, pulled out the cork, and poured it into 2 glasses. The liquor's aroma spread out with a faint toasted scent and a rich smoky scent. The 2 of them picked up their glasses and frowned at the same time. "Is this a failure?" Fergus sized up the brownish-red liquid in the glass. He had only smelled smoke's scent in those liquor that failed badly. That was a serious mistake that happened during the drying process. His opinion of Mag was lowered a little. A good brewer would not have served a failed item to his customers. Unless he wanted to pull a fast one on his customers with Mao Tai's success. Kit's initial thoughts were similar to those of Fergus, but he suddenly sensed something amiss when he wanted to put down the glass. He held the glass closer, and used his left hand to gently fan over it, making the aroma more intense. "It's not a failure. It's its unique fragrance," Kurt said to Fergus with surprise as his eyes lit up. "Fragrance? Yes. Sniff it carefully again. This smoky scent isn't repulsive. Instead, after the initial discomfort, you will find it increasingly mesmerizing, and after getting used to the smoky scent, you will discover the other scents hidden in it. Yes. It's the fragrance of malt. Kurt was surprised like a child who had discovered a huge secret. Fergus picked up the glass again suspiciously, and sniffed it again like how Kurt did it. After a while, his eyes widened with an expression of disbelief. Say no more. Let's try it first. Kurt picked up the glass and slowly took a sip. He swirled it in his mouth with his tongue. When the whiskey's fragrance filled his oral cavity, he savored the different fragrances at different parts carefully before swallowing. The texture was dry, rich, full, and smooth. The faint smoky taste brought along a mesmerizing texture. Kurt put down the glass, nodded, and gravely said to Fergus, "It's good liquor." This liquor that smelled like a failure initially had a shocking and mesmerizing taste hidden under that toasted and smoky smell. It was like a wild man with a rugged exterior, yet with astonishing knowledge. He shared his knowledge slowly, making people unable to resist getting lost in it. After a long time, the two of them put down their empty glasses at the same time. If this was presented at the liquor tasting event, how many points would you give it? Fergus asked Kurt. Without any doubt, 10 points, Kurt replied matter-of-factly. We should be glad that Mr. Hades brought Mao Tai, otherwise it wouldn't have looked good if we had contradicted ourselves on stage. Fergus chuckled. The young are to be feared. A genius has emerged in our Rodu city. Kurt couldn't help but praise Mag. Not only does he brew great liquor, even his side dishes are so scrumptious. Fergus swallowed the pig ears salad before popping a few peanuts into his mouth. The two of them were completely bowed over by Mag. He wasn't being arrogant, instead, he had the strength to match his attitude. The two of them drank the liquor with the delicious side dishes. Soon, they finished the whiskey and Mao Tai. Kurt pressed one hand against the table with narrowed eyes, and said, should we order another 2 bottles? Come, cheers, Fergus mumbled his reply under the table. Mag went out to get their coachman and servants, and just carried them away. Amy propped her chin on her hands as she watched them being carried away, and smilingly said, "See, I said they wouldn't need another bottle." To this world, the 40 to 50% Mao Tai and whiskey were definitely hard liquor. Those who boasted that they wouldn't get drunk no matter how much they drank were usually drinking ratafia and wine that didn't have much alcohol content. As long as their urinary systems could catch up, it wasn't strange that they wouldn't get drunk. There were many new customers at Saipan Tavern today. They, who hadn't tried hard liquor before, got drunk quickly. Fortunately, those who could afford liquor that cost 2,000 copper coins a bottle would have coachmen and servants whenever they go out. That saved Mag a lot of trouble. It was very harmonious at Saipan Tavern. However, Titan Tavern wasn't doing very well. The reopened Titan Tavern had changed its drink list. It was only selling the 30 years old aged Titan liquor that cost 3,000 copper coins per bottle now. The cheap and abundant Titan liquor was removed, along with those cheap liquor brands that she sold on behalf of other taverns. This meant giving up all of Titan Tavern's recent regular customers. She was rejecting them by setting a price that they couldn't afford. This caused the displeasure of many regulars who came to drink. They congregated at the door, asking Eofi for an explanation. Eofi came out and looked at the 10-odd regulars at the door. She bowed to them first before straightening, and said, "I'm sorry, gentlemen. Thank you for your support in all these years, but Titan Tavern has to upgrade itself. In order to carry on my father's will and make Titan Tavern the best tavern in Rodu, I have to set it back to its original position before moving it forward with all my might." The customers all fell silent. "Lady boss, are you not selling drinks to us anymore? 3,000 copper coins is really too expensive. We can't afford it even if we don't drink for a month," a middle-aged man said with a bitter smile. "Yes. Even 1,000 copper coins a glass is too expensive, someone chimed in. Eofi looked at all of them, and pursed her lips. She almost couldn't bear it. This is the Titan liquor that just got the gold award, personally brewed by Master Marcus back then and aged for 30 years in a cellar. It's already very reasonable that the lady boss is willing to take it out and sell it for 3,000 copper coins a bottle. If it was being sold in the 5 main taverns in Rodu now, don't even think of drinking a glass of it without 10,000 copper coins, a customer who just stepped out of the tavern said to those customers, slightly drunk. You guys should feel gratified. After all, you are all respectable people who used to drink Titan liquor daily. After saying that, the man whistled, stumbled onto a horse-drawn carriage parked at the roadside, and left. All of them looked at one another after hearing that. They felt empty, and dispersed. Eofi watched the regular customers go away, and felt a sense of loss instantly. A customer watching at the side consoled her, "Miss, don't think so much. Customers come and go. They don't have any loyalty. It's all because of the cheap price." Eofi regained her wits, and turned to look at the person who spoke up. She felt the middle-aged man in front of her looked a little familiar, and then her eyes lit up suddenly. "You are Mr. Pasaka. I didn't expect you to remember me." That middle-aged man was quite taken aback too. "You came to drink at the tavern almost every day back then, and you always took the seat near the door. Besides drinking, your favorite side dish was the preserved radish strips my mother made." Eofi nodded with a smile. "You used to let me top up preserved radish strips back then, and you would tip me, so I remember you." Pasaka nodded, and lamented, "Yes, the preserved radish strips your mother made and the liquor your father brewed are my most treasured memories. I heard that you brought the 30-year-old Titan liquor that your father kept in the cellar to the liquor tasting event yesterday, and promised to supply a certain quantity of it every day, so I came to take a look." "Yes. Please come in. We have about 10 bottles left today," Eofi answered with a smile. "You'll have to keep a bottle for me, then." Pasaka's eyes lit up, and he followed her in. He saw an empty seat at the door and sat down. Soon, Eofi came over with a bottle of liquor and a plate of preserved radish strips, and placed them in front of Pasaka. "Although the liquor I brewed isn't as good as my dad's, I learned how to make preserved radish strips from my mother," Eofi smilingly said. Pasaka picked up a golden preserved radish strip with the chopsticks and took a bite. Crunch! The crunchy texture and the savory and sweet taste made Pasaka raise his eyebrows and reveal a joyful smile. "I always felt that you resembled your mother. You even inherited her skills at making the preserved radish strips. It's very delicious, and tastes just like before." Pasaka put down his chopsticks, and gave Eofi a thumbs up. "Thank you, please enjoy them." Eofi turned to walk away with a smile spreading on her face. Yes. Customers come and go. Only the taste can make a customer loyal. Even though over 10 years had passed, they would still come and check it out, searching for the taste in their memories as soon as they heard the news. Eofi suddenly knew what she had to do. She should satisfy those customers who came enthusiastically. This was what she should do.